He is a celebrity chef in Korea, but he has lost his sense of taste because of stress. For an excellent chef, this is undoubtedly a devastating blow. Not only is he ostracized by fellow chefs, but he also faces a barrage of online criticism. The man's life spirals downward from that moment on. Under his therapist's guidance, Kang Hyun decides to leave the city to live a rural life. He plans to release stress through solo camping, but what he doesn't know is that this decision will set him on a fantastical journey. The scene shifts to Riverside Village. This is Hyun's first time back here since his grandfather passed away. Looking at the old house filled with memories, he plans to at least clean it before leaving. Suddenly, the warehouse door beside him slowly creaks open. Hyun tenses up, instantly on high alert. If he's unlucky enough to encounter a thief, he won't hesitate to hit him with the metal camping box in his hand. Suddenly, a dark shadow darts out. Once he sees it clearly, he realizes it's just a stray cat. Hyun breathes a sigh of relief and continues inside. But the further he walks, the stranger it feels. Why is there no light in this warehouse at all? Suddenly, a bright light shines from ahead. Hyun is instantly stunned by the scene before him. Inside his grandfather's old warehouse, why do cosmic black holes exist? Suddenly, his feet slip. With a piercing scream, Hyun completely loses his balance and plummets downward. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a strange world. Suddenly, he feels something odd on his hand. Startled, he springs up from the ground. Fortunately, it's just a squirrel-like creature, though its huge ears look rather unusual. Then, the squirrel flaps its ears and flies away. Watching it gradually disappear into the air, Hyun grows extremely uneasy at this bizarre sight. At this moment, another sound comes from behind, making him jumps in fright. It's just a rabbit hiding in the grass, but the next second, it stands up with a muscular build, and it even hops away right in front of Hyun. Hyun is completely freaked out at this point. After running all day, Hyun is utterly exhausted. His therapist only told him to go camping to relieve stress, but he nearly died on this trip. Suddenly, Hyun's stomach growls. He has no choice but to open his backpack and search for food. In no time, he starts a fire. Hyun keeps reflecting on everything that happened today. In his backpack, he only finds a few dried mushrooms and some seasonings. The crucial metal camping box with more food supplies was left behind in the warehouse. He might as well make do with what he has. After all, there's always hope. Right now, the priority is to fill his stomach. With Hyun's skillful work, he manages to prepare some edible food based on his experience. But the problem is, food made by a chef without taste. How can he tell if it's any good? The silence crushes him. The frying pan is violently thrown aside. Hyun curses furiously at the air. Right now, he's like a worthless person. Suddenly, he feels a chill rising behind him. When he turns around, he discovers dozens of eyes staring at him. Looking at those fierce gazes in the grass, Hyun panics immediately. All he has now is a Swiss Army knife. Suddenly, the creatures in the grass slowly open their mouths wide. To him, this looks like the end of the world. Hyun is so scared he grabs the knife and waves it wildly. But what he expected doesn't happen. Confused, Hyun slowly opens his eyes. No strange creatures jump out from the grass before him. Instead, from another direction, comes the sound of a pan hitting the ground. Hearing this, Hyun stiffly turns his head. The food in his frying pan has been completely devoured. Standing nearby is a small dog with pure white fur and blue eyes, wagging its tail continuously. This scene leaves Hyun stunned. Where did this little white dog come from? Since it doesn't understand human speech, it naturally doesn't answer him. Instead, drooling, it keeps rubbing against him, clearly having enjoyed the food Hyun just made. Seeing this, Hyun mutters impatiently that he doesn't like dogs, but then his hand reaches out to pet its fur almost involuntarily, perhaps because the dog is wild. Its fur feels very rough to Hyun, but then he thinks about it. Something seems off. Its sharp teeth and the shape of its ears don't seem like those of a dog. It seems to be a small white wolf instead. This realization instantly freezes Hyun in place. He immediately looks around frantically for its wolf companions. He vaguely remembers many pairs of eyes staring at him earlier. Could they think he kidnapped the wolf pup and want to eat it? Countless terrifying images flash through Hyun's mind, but soon he thinks of a solution. Just lie on the ground and play dead. If he stays here, his fate is spelled out. Either he ends up as food, or he starves to death. There are no other options on the menu. At this moment, the white wolf bites Hyun's clothes and starts dragging him. Has the worst outcome he feared finally arrived? The scene shifts as the white wolf drags him to the entrance of a cave. Hyun notices something unusual and quickly looks behind. The light coming from this cave entrance looks exactly like when he arrived in this world. If he's not mistaken, this is the portal back to his original world, but having never tried it, Hyun doesn't dare guarantee it. At this moment, the white wolf beside him also notices Hyun's behavior. It cheerfully charges toward a target. A scream rings out. A certain part of Hyun's body is hit hard. His body goes limp and falls uncontrollably into the cave. Only those who've experienced this know how excruciating it feels. After what feels like an eternity, Hyun slowly opens his eyes. Once he sees his surroundings clearly, he realizes he's back beside his old family warehouse. The joy of being reborn instantly fills his heart. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to thank the wolf. Although they won't meet again, he'll always remember today's experience. But he feels like a pair of eyes is watching him. When he turns around, he's completely stunned. Why is the wolf here too? So Hyun takes the white wolf back to his place. He tries to give it a bath. He also names it Marshmallow and tries to communicate with it in writing, but nothing goes smoothly. Soon, man and wolf both drift off to sleep. The next morning, sunlight streams through the window. Hyun wakes up first. He hasn't slept this soundly in a long time. Perhaps it's thanks to Marshmallow. Immediately, Hyun prepares breakfast for Marshmallow, a full bowl of dog food. Unexpectedly, Marshmallow just glances at it and turns away. Clearly, this doesn't suit its taste. Next, Hyun brings out various pet pet foods to try, but unsurprisingly they all fail. At this point, his temper is starting to flare up. After a second thought, he decides to satisfy his hunger first. Hyun soon prepares several exquisite dishes, though he doesn't know why he bothers since he can't taste anything anyway. But while he's frustrated, a white blur sweeps all the food from the table in a flash. But what's strange is, it devours all the homemade dishes, the stir-fried beef with bean sprouts and the soybean paste soup, while cleverly avoiding the store-bought salad and frozen chicken breast. The homemade braised tofu is also finished. Seeing this, a bold idea suddenly emerges in Hyun's mind. First, he presents Marshmallow with two identical dishes. Same cooking method, same ingredient quality. But when it comes to using different seasonings, what difference will it make? One uses common store-bought sauce. The other uses a special sauce that won praise at an international competition. With such subtle differences, he doesn't believe the wolf can tell them apart, although the store-bought sauce is also delicious. If Marshmallow chooses the dish with the special sauce, Marshmallow has the potential to be a food connoisseur. However, Marshmallow quickly finishes the meat with the store-bought sauce. Then it runs over to sniff the other portion, and then it also eats that meat. Clearly, this experiment is a complete failure. Marshmallow doesn't care about store-bought or special sauce, but fortunately, this time is not entirely in vain. The scene shifts to Hyun painting the exterior wall of the restaurant. But as he paints, something feels off. Did he buy defective paint? Suddenly, an elderly cursing voice comes from behind. The person is an old man wearing sunglasses and a green baseball cap. Hyun is full of questions. He doesn't know this old man. It turns out the old man is the village chief, and noticing a newcomer, he comes over to visit. But immediately, he starts complaining that Hyun's painting skills are terrible. Then he turns his attention to the white wolf beside them, thinking it's just a small dog. Next, the chief tells Hyun not to worry about the painting. He'll arrange for someone to help later. The chief's non-stop chatter leaves Hyun breathless, and from the chief's actions, he clearly wants to pet the wolf. Unable to refuse, Hyun reluctantly agrees, but credit where it's due. The chief gets things done fast. Within a few days, he brings a dark-skinned young man to Hyun. The man's name is Jung Young-ho. He immediately discusses the construction plan with the chief. The gossipy chief naturally brings up Hyun's soon-to-open restaurant. Hyun explains he's opening an Italian-style restaurant. After all, he won the Paris International Culinary Competition. Myung-ho, beside them, is clearly interested in this. He slowly asks Hyun if the Western restaurant will sell fried pork cutlets. Turns out Myung-ho's wife loves fried pork cutlets, but every time he tries to buy them at the town restaurant after work, he misses the time. Since his wife is about to give birth, he can't go far, so he tried frying them himself or his wife, but the results weren't as expected. Hearing this, Hyun silently considers that although fried pork cutlets aren't on his menu, thinking about serving customers food when he doesn't know what it tastes like makes Hyun hesitate for a moment. Suddenly, he notices Marshmallow beside him. Looking at its eager face, Hyun becomes a bit dazed. He actually has another way to solve this problem. Immediately, Hyun slams the table and stands up. He tells Myung-ho with a hand on his chest that he'll take care of the fried pork cutlets. I'll definitely recreate your memories. According to Myung-ho, the tasty pork cutlets they remembered were made with a reddish-brown, slightly sweet sauce. If made with fresh tomatoes, it would have a sour taste. So the pork cutlets in town most likely used ketchup. After preparing the ingredients, the remaining step is to wait for evaluation. Naturally, Hyun entrusts this important task to the food connoisseur Marshmallow. This is the first time he's felt so motivated since losing his sense of taste. His magnificent knife skills quickly shred the side dishes. After the pork cutlet goes through flour, egg wash, and breadcrumb coating, it enters the oil and is fried until golden, then can be removed. The most important step is observing Marshmallow's tail. If the frequency is too low, it means the taste isn't up to standard. Hyun fries many pork cutlets and receives countless rounds of feedback from Marshmallow. As long as there's a way to know the taste, Hyun has no reason to give up. The scene shifts as the restaurant's first customer finally arrives. Today, Myung-ho wants to surprise his pregnant wife. This newly opened restaurant just happens to have her favorite fried pork cutlets. The moment he finishes speaking, Hyun brings out the ready pork cutlets. The woman's eyes go wide with amazement. Immediately, she can't wait to cut into the cutlet. Hyun and Myung-ho silently await Soo-jin's reaction. Although the town's pork cutlets are delicious, this one is even better. Although the sauce tastes familiar, this cutlet is crispier and the meat is more juicy. This is the most delicious pork cutlet Soo-jin has ever tasted. Then Soo-jin opens her heart to Myung-ho. They ate pork cutlets on their first date, but shy Myung-ho only kept his head down looking at the food. Since then, she has eaten many pork cutlets. Actually, what Soo-jin likes isn't the pork cutlets. It's the memory of eating them together with Myung-ho. At this moment, watching the two of them, Hyun smiles with satisfaction. He glances back and can't help saying, at least Marshmallow's dedication wasn't in vain. The scene shifts to Hyun sitting alone in a chair. He redesigns the interior of the restaurant. Maybe he doesn't need to be so fixated on the Italian style, but this little guy's condition doesn't seem right. Could keeping it here have caused depression, or has it started missing its original home? It seems it's time to send Marshmallow back to its home. It's not interested in human society's toys, but thinking back to that day makes Hyun's whole body shudder. At this moment, Marshmallow seems to understand what Hyun said. It excitedly lies on the table looking at Hyun, just staring at him with those big sapphire blue eyes. It doesn't take long before Hyun caves to Marshmallow's adorable puppy dog eyes. He keeps reassuring himself that he can overcome his fear. Perhaps nothing strange will happen today. Hyun carefully observes this world. Could this be like the other dimensions mentioned in comics? Suddenly, the sound of water ahead catches his attention. So Hyun follows the source of the sound. However, the next scene completely stuns him. Before him appears a light blue lake, like a giant sapphire embedded in the earth. No wonder Marshmallow looks so listless. If he were in its position, he'd probably be homesick too. Next, Hyun puts his backpack on the ground and prepares a parting gift for Marshmallow. It's also his way of thanking it for sampling all those pork cutlets. A portable grill is quickly set up. Then Hyun takes out some premium Korean beef. The moment the food appears, it's locked onto by a pair of eyes. After spreading butter on the griddle, the beef can be placed on it to grill. Finally, sprinkle with pepper for seasoning. A portion of grilled meat is complete. Marshmallow immediately pounces on it eagerly. Judging by how much the tail is wagging, the beef is extremely delicious. Hyun turns to look at the quiet lake, lost in thought. How can he forget the most important thing when camping? Grilled meat must be paired with refreshing beer. It's the perfect way to enjoy the view. Just as Hyun stares at the lake in a daze, suddenly a sharp blade appears at his neck. From your appearance, you don't look like a local villager. Are you a spy sent by another country? Answer me, young man. Who are you? Hyun didn't expect to have a knife at his throat right after arriving in this other world. Experiencing this situation for the first time, his mind goes blank. He can only shakily tell the other person he's a chef who stopped here because of the beautiful scenery. But before he finishes speaking, the pressure on his neck increases. Apparently, the mysterious man doesn't believe his explanation. What kind of person in their right mind goes sightseeing in a forest roaming with magical beasts? At this moment, the man catches sight of Marshmallow eating meat nearby. The man's expression immediately changes. Meanwhile, Hyun is still desperately begging for mercy, but the mysterious man slowly sheathes his blade. His tone softens as he apologizes, explaining that this isn't a place meant for ordinary people. The man then introduces himself as Randolph, a knight from the lowlands. But this sudden change in attitude leaves Hyun completely confused. Little does he know it's Marshmallow's presence that saved his life. Looking at the confused Hyun, Randolph knows he doesn't know the legend of the White Wolf. Legend says the White Wolves are a family that inherited the bloodline of ancient gods, descendants of the Wolf God. Long ago, the Wolf God's eyes could distinguish good from evil and possessed extraordinary wisdom. The White Wolf family also inherited part of that ability. So the White Wolf being willing to stay with Hyun proves he's not a bad person. Randolph's words make everything click into place for Hyun. So being able to devour 10 servings at once and having agile movements, it's all because Marshmallow is a descendant of the Wolf God. Though he doesn't know what Hyun is thinking, it's definitely wrong. After Randolph confirms repeatedly that Hyun is really just eating here, his eyes turn to the grilled meat nearby. Seeing this, Hyun invites him to try some, but he waves his hand in refusal. However, the lingering aroma from the grilled meat immediately makes Randolph regret it. He then tells Hyun with relish that he'll just try one piece. Watching Randolph's expression, Hyun can't help but think, he's seen that look before. Then, Randolph picks up the meat and stuffs it in his mouth. Just one bite blows my mind. This meat is incredibly juicy, and it just melts in my mouth. After finishing, Randolph naturally reaches for a second piece. Sharp-eyed, he notices what's in Hyun's hand. Upon learning it's alcohol, Randolph's eyes light up. Your local alcohol even has such a unique container. I wonder how it tastes, but if you want me to try it, that's not necessary. I'm just asking out of curiosity. However, Randolph keeps a tight grip on the can, won't let go of it. Hyun sees right through him. He immediately takes out a new can of beer, opens it, and hands it to Randolph. Randolph picks up the beer and starts chugging. This beer is incredible. Its taste is so refreshing. Staring at Randolph's contented expression, Hyun is lost in thought. Could this man really be from another world? For a moment, he looks less like a mysterious knight and more like a kindly uncle from the neighborhood. After eating and drinking his fill, Randolph tells Hyun, if you need anything, look for me in the village. Just say you're looking for Randolph, commander of the Robentus Knights, and someone will guide you. Hearing this, Hyun is stunned. Commander of the Knights sounds pretty impressive. Is it equivalent to a police chief on Earth? Randolph thinks to himself. As expected, this guy isn't ordinary. Hearing my title, he has no reaction at all. I'd like to tell him to be careful here, but with the White Wolf around, he should be fine. Then Randolph hurriedly leaves after eating 5 servings of grilled meat. He still has to continue his patrol, but Hyun is shocked when he hears Randolph is on patrol duty. Can people in this world work after drinking? But then Hyun lets it go. After all, every world has its own rules. Marshmallow, bounding about, finally catches someone's eye. Hyun decides to give all the remaining grilled meat to it. Watching Marshmallow devour the food, Hyun smiles faintly. This might be the last time I feed you. Although the time spent with you was short, I was happy. I hope you take good care of yourself from now on. Maybe we'll never meet again. At this moment, sunlight slowly shines on Hyun as he's about to leave. He turns around, hoping to say goodbye to Marshmallow one last time. Yet the wolf doesn't even look up, wholly absorbed in the meat. All that emotional buildup for nothing. But come to think of it, they'd only just met. What deep feelings could there possibly be? When Hyun looks closely, he discovers that Marshmallow has vanished from the food bowl. Sadness washes over him. But on second thought, it isn't Marshmallow's fault. All he can do is hope they'll both be okay. However, just as Hyun turns around, a white figure is hanging on his backpack. Feeling the weight, Hyun immediately turns and grabs the creature. This is his favorite backpack. Soon, Hyun is defeated in the struggle, at the cost of losing a backpack. Fortunately, he receives Marshmallow's comfort. Watching Marshmallow's strange behavior, Hyun is speechless. This is clearly its home, so why does it cling to him? Hearing this, Marshmallow seems to understand and gives an obedient bark in response. Do you prefer being with me? Thinking this, Hyun smiles. He went through so much trouble to bring Marshmallow back here. Looks like he'll need to come to this world often. The scene shifts as Hyun returns to Earth through the portal. He brings this homesick little creature over once again. Looks like he'll have more excuses to go camping in the future. Back in the village, Hyun finds a crowd gathered. Is there a festival going on? He wonders. But why did they choose to gather next to his house? At this moment, the chief also sees Hyun walking back. The chief says there's a celebration in the village today. Didn't Hyun receive the message? Hearing this, Hyun shakes his head. This is news to him. Even if he'd known in advance, he would have skipped it. Suddenly, a villager walks over with a banner telling the chief it's ready. At this moment, Hyun still wants to quietly slip away, but is stopped by the chief, who tells him now is a perfect time to join the party. And this is a welcome party for you joining the village. Hearing this, Hyun stops short. That can't be right. Why am I the last to know about my own party? Today is a happy day for the villagers. Everyone is laughing and talking at the feast. But there's one person who just wants to go home. The villagers keep pulling Hyun aside, chatting his ear off about everything under the sun. Do they throw a party every time someone new moves in? He finds this bewildering. Hearing this, Myung-ho and his wife explain. Although their village is small, people are very united. The kind villagers would never use welcoming Hyun as an excuse to drink. The chief chimes in, agreeing, good times are better when shared. Of course, it's also a chance to promote your soon-to-open restaurant. Hearing the chief's words, Hyun is deeply moved. If he hadn't seen all those sake bottle caps around the chief, he might actually have believed him. Seeing his bluff called, the chief shrugs it off and grabs more wine to keep the party going. Though Hyun has to admit, the free promotion is a nice touch he hadn't considered. Hyun doesn't really care about making money, but this is an opportunity to learn the villagers' preferences. With that thought, Hyun's mood lightens. After all, this is a place his grandfather loved to visit. Suddenly, Hyun realizes he hasn't seen Marshmallow in a while. In complete contrast to Hyun's mood, Marshmallow is happily feasting on the party's pork belly. During this time, countless villagers try to catch this greedy little creature, but they can't even touch a single hair on the wolf. Even the village's famous hunter is thoroughly fooled. And what's even more frustrating for the villagers is, the fresh sirloin they bring hasn't even been set down before it's stolen. Marshmallow weaves through the party like a phantom, snatching up only the most expensive cuts of meat. Seeing this, Hyun awkwardly turns his head away. He won't admit the wolf came with him. The touching scenes with Marshmallow from before are shattering. If he'd known, he'd have left it in the other world. Suddenly, a quiet figure at the party catches Hyun's attention. Whose child is sitting there alone? Is it that there are no other kids his age? Or does he just not like the food? An elderly woman hands food to the boy. Unexpectedly, the next second, the boy knocks the food violently to the ground. This sets Hyun off immediately. Disrespecting elders and wasting food, both completely unacceptable. After knocking over the food, the boy runs off alone. Turns out the woman is the boy's grandmother. She doesn't know why her grandson Sang-hoo is acting this way. He's been throwing tantrums since returning from school yesterday. At school, Sang-hoo heard about some cool new food a classmate had tried. He came home pestering for the same thing, a hamburger, which the classmate's family had brought back from Seoul. But judging from Sang-hoo's reaction, she probably bought the wrong thing. Hearing this, Hyun realizes the boy Sang-hoo wants a hamburger from a burger shop. One villager pipes up. He can grab one tomorrow when he's in town. Hearing this, the chief grumbles, the town doesn't have those. You'd have to go all the way to the city for a real hamburger. The villagers buzz with chatter, all trying to figure out how to get the boy a hamburger. At this moment, the chief makes the final decision. Since they can't buy a hamburger, they'll just make one. But the grandmother doesn't even know what a hamburger is. How can she make it? With that, the chief pivots to point at Hyun. And don't we happen to have a chef from Seoul right here in the village? Hyun nearly chokes on his sake in shock. Oh, how generous of you, chief. Just like that, Hyun's been volunteered. Seeing this, the chief leans in and lowers his voice. Look, it doesn't have to taste exactly like the real thing. What Sang-hoo really wants isn't the burger itself. He's jealous that his classmate got to spend time with family. Sang-hoo's mother is sick and hospitalized in Seoul, and his father is working overseas to earn money for medical expenses. This is just a kid's way of dealing with his sadness. So if you can make something good enough, something he can show off to his friends at school, that's all he needs. Since Sang-hoo is the only child living in the village, please help out this time. Hearing this, Hyun doesn't respond but falls into thought. So the chief isn't as carefree as he seems on the surface. It's those damn sake bottle caps that threw off my judgment. Soon, night gradually falls. Although making hamburgers is incredibly simple for Hyun, who studied in America, he's never eaten from the burger shop Sang-hoo's classmate mentioned. And having lost his sense of taste, he can't control the flavor. So this time, he'll have to rely on Marshmallow again. Never mind that someone wiped out the entire village's meat supply today, leaving everyone stuck with radish and kimchi for the next week. The culprit should pay some price, don't you think, Marshmallow? No matter how much Marshmallow acts cute toward Hyun, it hasn't had any food all day. But there is something Marshmallow can help taste. That's Hyun's experimental burger, put together based solely on online photos. Unexpectedly, Marshmallow eats it with gusto as usual. This reminds Hyun of his study abroad life in America. Back then, he went to America simply with a heart that loved cooking. Looking back now, he realizes how foolish he was. But even so, he's no longer as passionate as he was back then. He can't help but wonder how disappointed his younger self would be. The thought makes Hyun shake his head. He'd let his mind mind wander too far. Right now, the priority is to make the most delicious burger possible, but Hyun has no intention of making something just good enough. From the moment he fell in love with cooking until now, he's never settled for good enough when cooking. In the blink of an eye, it's the next morning. The restaurant kitchen becomes busy. After a night of Marshmallow's efforts, Hyun creates the most satisfying hamburger. The boy Sang-hoo also arrives at the restaurant early. He's accompanied by his grandmother, along with Myung-ho and his wife. Soon, food is placed before Sang-hoo. Is this the hamburger Sang-hoo wanted? Beef, tomato, lettuce, and salad dressing are perfectly stacked between two buns. This is Sang-hoo's first time seeing a hamburger. Immediately, he eagerly picks up the hamburger and brings it to his mouth. Sang-hoo takes just one bite, and it's like stepping into a whole new world. Is this what people mean by flavors exploding like fireworks? It's light years ahead of any convenience store burger. He happily tells his grandmother this hamburger is really delicious. Hearing this, the grandmother says she's glad he got to eat the hamburger he wanted. But hearing this, Sang-hoo freezes. After a long silence, he tells his grandmother he didn't actually want a hamburger. What he wants is his mother, who's hospitalized in Seoul. Full of remorse, Sang-hoo apologizes to his grandmother. He shouldn't have lost his temper with her yesterday. Hearing this, the grandmother gently wipes away the tears from Sang-hoo's eyes. As a grandmother, she didn't even understand her own grandson's feelings. For such a young child to be separated from his parents and live with his grandmother, how sad that must be. The elderly woman and the young boy embrace tightly. A simple hamburger has bridged the gap between grandmother and grandson. This is what cooking should truly be about. Hyun mentions casually that he's planning to visit Seoul in the future. If I go, Sang-hoo, would you come with me? Sang-hoo can hardly believe his ears. Are you serious? He asks. Hyun shakes his head nonchalantly. He just wants to try that famous burger place in Seoul. Sang-hoo bursts into a smile through his tears. He'll finally get a chance to see his mom in Seoul, but Hyun quickly regrets meddling. He moved to Pyeongchang from Seoul for a reason. Why would he go back to the place he left behind? Eventually, Grandma and Sang-hoo leave the restaurant fully satisfied. Before they go, Hyun reminds Sang-hoo once more he won't be going to Seoul anytime soon. The scene shifts to Hyun back in the kitchen. He notices that experimenting with new menu items has left him with lots of leftover ingredients. In that case, why not take these ingredients camping? Come to think of it, he's never actually spent the night there. It's not real camping without pitching a tent. Suddenly, a white figure appears at his feet. The creature gives him a familiar look. It sends a chill down Hyun's spine. That expression is exactly the same as last time in the other world. When did he ever say he'd go back there? But reality proves otherwise. Hyun and Marshmallow end up back in the other world. He's been here more often than he's visited the supermarket near his house. To be fair though, the scenery in this world is genuinely more relaxing. Hyun takes out the tent parts and starts examining them. Being a camping novice, he is utterly clueless about pitching a tent. Even when he manages to get the pieces standing, the tent collapses instantly the next second. After 2 hours of struggling, Hyun finally manages to get the tent assembled. He collapses onto the ground. It's way harder to do than it looks. Just setting up a tent has completely drained his energy. Soon, Hyun finishes cooking. He leisurely serves himself a bowl. Cooking over an open fire in the wilderness is what camping is all about. Suddenly, two small creatures sneak over, drawn by the aroma. Hyun naturally spots them. He picks up a few pieces of meat from the grill and tosses them toward the big-eared squirrels. But suddenly, in midair, a large mouth intercepts them. The creature eats and flies off immediately, with the whole motion as smooth as silk. Afternoon sunlight bathes the grass. Butterflies begin their nectar-gathering work. The big-eared squirrels fill their bellies with Hyun's second offering. Hyun had worried that camping alone would be boring, but now, just sitting here by himself feels completely satisfying. The environment here is peaceful with no one to disturb him. Is this what the therapist meant by healing? But where did Marshmallow run off to? With that thought, Hyun rekindles the campfire. He needs to prepare some food for Marshmallow in advance. What he doesn't know is, a pair of eyes is watching him intently. Hearing movement behind him, Hyun assumes Marshmallow has returned. He says casually that this food is for it. The moment he finishes speaking, a hand reaches out. Fortunately, Hyun stays alert. He sidesteps and moves the bowl away. The owner of the grasping hand slides forward several meters from the force of her momentum. Seeing the strange creature before him, Hyun stands up nervously. He has no idea what the creature intends. It's a creature with fox ears and a tail, drooling uncontrollably. Unexpectedly, the creature before him is a fox girl. For the sake of peace, Hyun offers up the kimchi soup in his hand. Cautiously, the fox girl Mona leans in to get a closer look at the food in the bowl. The aroma of spicy kimchi and pork hits her immediately. Mona drools with hunger. She eagerly bites into a piece of pork, but when she tastes chili pepper for the first time, her face instantly contorts into a hilarious expression of shock. The intense spiciness has her rolling on the ground in agony. Fortunately, the sensation doesn't last long. After recovering, Mona carefully licks the lingering taste from her lips. She's instantly left speechless with amazement. The bright spiciness of chili, garlic, and scallion blends perfectly with pork. Despite the discomfort, she approaches the food again. Hyun didn't expect her to be so determined. She clearly can't handle spice but keeps eating anyway. At this moment, Marshmallow runs back from the wild, only to discover a fox girl has eaten its lunch. It leaps into the air, and the next second Mona is sent flying. Seeing this, Hyun rushes to break them up, explaining it's all a misunderstanding, but Mona suddenly bares her sharp teeth, ready to counterattack. Hyun barely manages to separate the two, but what happens next calms everyone down. In a flash, a man with 8-pack abs suddenly grabs Mona. He hastily apologizes, and quickly disappears with Mona from Hyun's sight. Watching them leave, Hyun is astonished to discover that such diverse peoples inhabit this world. The scene shifts to Hyun and Marshmallow returning to the village. They're preparing for tomorrow's restaurant opening. Although he originally came to the village to relieve stress, since he's decided to open a restaurant, he's going to do it right. A grand opening banner now hangs at the restaurant entrance. Suddenly, an elderly woman stops in her tracks. She looks at the opening announcement, deep in thought. Hyun's got the ingredients ready, and he's just about done with the cleaning. All that's left is to wait for tomorrow's opening. Just then, the elderly woman slowly enters the restaurant. She asks Hyun if he's serving customers now. Hyun is momentarily speechless. Although the official opening is tomorrow, he still invites the customer to take a seat. The old lady is in no hurry and wanders around the restaurant, looking at the old tables. She murmurs about why the old things haven't been thrown away. Then she slowly walks toward the window. This decor seems to bring back a flood of memories for her. Noticing her reaction, Hyun asks if she was a regular at the old tea house, but the old lady doesn't respond. Instead, she asks what kind of restaurant he's opening. Hyun explains he mainly makes Western food, like pasta or pizza. Hearing this, the old lady pulls out a chair and orders pasta, but she tells Hyun to decide on the flavor himself. Hyun gets to work in the kitchen. He didn't expect a difficult customer right before opening. Based on experience, he figures this is her first time having pasta. So Hyun decides to make a crowd-pleasing tomato pasta. The tomato pasta is ready in no time. Mrs. Park looks at the steaming pasta. She slowly picks up some noodles and takes a bite, although Hyun himself can't taste it. His pasta has earned praise from many judges. Hyun is very confident in his skills with this dish. But after just one bite, Mrs. Park puts down her chopsticks. She immediately asks how much it costs. This startles Hyun. She's clearly about to pay and leave. At this moment, a familiar figure approaches from outside. It's the village chief, here to see what he can do to help prepare for tomorrow's opening. But he runs right into Mrs. Park leaving, after learning she's already eaten here. The chief hurries inside to find Hyun standing silently by the table. The chief approaches and immediately understands what happened. Hyun's brow is tightly furrowed. His pride has taken a serious blow. Is his tomato pasta really that bad? After a long while, Hyun has completely withdrawn into himself. Seeing this, the chief tries to comfort him, but Hyun's mood has hit rock bottom. He slowly makes a decision. Starting tomorrow, the restaurant will close. The chief naturally won't agree to this. He keeps reassuring Hyun that if it's because Mrs. Park left the food, there's no need to worry. After all, you're not money. You can't please everyone. The chief explains that Mrs. Park wasn't really here to eat anyway, so Hyun shouldn't take it to heart. Her husband used to work at the tea house here, which is why Mrs. Park often came by. But unfortunately, her husband passed away last year. After that, Mrs. Park rarely leaves her house. She probably hasn't moved on from losing her loved one. So this isn't your fault at all. Besides, Mrs. Park has always been very particular. The chief expects Hyun to bounce back after this talk, but Hyun becomes even more concerned. He even postpones the opening to go camping in the other world. Perhaps because of Marshmallow, Hyun isn't bothered like he was on the first day. After learning about Mrs. Park's story, Hyun wants to help her even more, but his best Italian dishes were rejected. Perhaps next time he'll have to try making Korean food for her. Suddenly, Hyun notices a figure overhead. Caught, Mona can only stare awkwardly with wide eyes. That one's back again. Seeing him, Mona hisses angrily at Hyun, but the next second, her stomach growls loudly. Looks like she came because she was hungry. Hyun has no choice but to open his camping pack and start preparing food. Mona quietly climbs down from the tree. Hyun takes out premium beef and places it on the grill. After grilling it to medium rare, he slices it. Just drizzle some sauce and the beef is done. But when he takes out the spicy sauce, Hyun hesitates. He clearly remembers that Mona can't handle spice. So Hyun takes out the portable stove. He heats the pan and adds butter, then adds sliced matsutake mushrooms, stir-frying them before seasoning with pepper and a bit of salt. Next, he pours in fresh milk. After bringing it to a boil, he adds cheese. Finally, he adds the cooked pasta to combine everything into a creamy steak pasta. As expected, Mona eyes the food warily as usual. Still haunted by the last encounter with the spicy chili, she hesitates to take the first bite. Eventually, hunger conquers fear. One bite of steak and her eyes light up. The tender, juicy beef paired with the rich aroma of warm milk. This is the best food she's ever had in her life. She immediately starts devouring the food on her plate. In less than a minute, she finishes the entire creamy steak pasta. The satisfied Mona snuggles up next to Hyun. She's completely different from their first meeting. This pasta really suits her taste. Food that matches the diner's preferences is what matters most. Suddenly, Hyun has a realization. He might have found a way to help Mrs. Park. The scene shifts to the kitchen of Hyun's restaurant. He's washing vegetables purchased from the village. Hyun plans to combine these fragrant wild vegetables into a special dish, but he needs a helper for the most important step. When Marshmallow sees Hyun holding the wild vegetables, its face darkens. It immediately turns away in refusal. Looks like Marshmallow has foods it dislikes too. What will Hyun do without his only helper? Seeing the postponed opening notice at the restaurant, the chief knows. Hyun must have been affected by what happened with Mrs. Park. The scene shifts to Mrs. Park's home. She's sitting alone in the yard, lost in thought. She turns to see an old man wearing a green hat standing at the door. Mrs. Park immediately knows the chief is here with a purpose. Sure enough, the chief brings up Hyun's restaurant opening. He hopes Mrs. Park will honor them with another visit, but Mrs. Park is unmoved. She thinks it's normal for customers to encounter food that doesn't suit their taste. The chief confidently tells Mrs. Park that this time will definitely be different. The restaurant is right here in the village anyway. Walking through that door again isn't difficult, is it? You might regret it if you don't go. With that, the chief hurries away from Mrs. Park's home without waiting for a response. Meanwhile, Hyun draws on his culinary experience to create a new dish, combining seafood and wild vegetables for a surprisingly flavorful result. But what really troubles him is figuring out how to invite Mrs. Park back to the restaurant. Unexpectedly, the restaurant doorbell rings. Hyun quickly peeks out. To his surprise, it's Mrs. Park. How did she know he wanted to invite her? Mrs. Park is equally confused as she enters the restaurant. She has no idea what Hyun has prepared for her. If it's that foreign pasta again, she just can't get used to it. Thinking this, Mrs. Park considers backing out. Suddenly, a refreshing aroma fills her nostrils. Mrs. Park turns her head, searching for the source of the smell. Hyun gently places the food before Mrs. Park. This is a new dish Hyun specially created for Mrs. Park, daylily pasta. Looking at the beautifully plated dish, Mrs. Park freezes. Do they have daylily noodles in America now? It even has bracken and clams. As the first bite of noodles enters her mouth, Mrs. Park's clouded eyes suddenly brighten. The fresh aroma of wild vegetables makes her feel like she's standing in a field of spring wildflowers. She remembers every moment of viewing blossoms with her husband that year. His romantic words from back then are vivid in her mind. How she misses those days they spent together. The scene returns to reality. Mrs. Park slowly looks up at the green leaves outside the tea house. It's spring again. Mrs. Park asks Hyun if this dish isn't on the menu. Did you create this dish especially for me? Hyun is left speechless. Mrs. Park then says he should just open with the regular menu. Why make things complicated? Hyun firmly states that he simply wants to make food that suits his customers' tastes, but Hyun realizes that relying on marshmallow to season food isn't a long-term solution for someone who's lost his sense of taste. Before Hyun can think further, Mrs. Park deftly picks up the noodles and puts them in her mouth. In no time at all, under Hyun's astonished gaze, Mrs. Park cleans her plate. Then Mrs. Park smoothly asks Hyun for the bill. This is completely different from her first visit when she left after one bite. The change startles Hyun. He waves his hands, insisting this meal is his treat. But Mrs. Park firmly refuses his kindness. Food this good deserves to be paid for properly. Don't devalue what you've created. If you add this dish to the menu, I'll come often. Hearing this, Hyun smiles with relief. He's finally made something Mrs. Park is satisfied with. To celebrate, he takes Marshmallow camping in the other world. Suddenly, a massive shadow flashes overhead. Hyun's pleasant vacation mood vanishes instantly. Moments later, the knight Randolph emerges from nearby bushes, muttering something about missing it. Suddenly, he's delighted to spot Hyun and Snow. Perfect timing for lunch, isn't it? Randolph greets Hyun, who's flat on the ground, seemingly oblivious to his predicament. Hyun struggles to his feet and chats with Randolph. He learns that Randolph has the day off and is out hunting. Marshmallow's eyes light up. It seems very interested in hunting. Randolph slaps his thigh excitedly. He'll take care of everything today. How about we go hunting together? But Hyun remains silent, his face clearly showing protest. The scene shifts to Hyun equipped as an archer. Hyun looks unhappily at the weapon in his hands. This has nothing to do with the healing trip he imagined, but the enthusiastic knight and wolf are already scouting for prey. Randolph explains this is where the jumping birds gather. They look like cotton candy walking around. Curious, Hyun approaches. These creatures look similar to what attacked his campsite earlier, but Randolph explains that what he saw were just juvenile jumping birds, and you must not be fooled by their cute appearance. Once they enter attack mode, it becomes terrifying. This shatters any sympathy Hyun had. Birds with 8-pack abs are just too bizarre. Unexpectedly, Randolph and Marshmallow rush out instantly. The jumping birds are worn out from fighting each other, the ideal time for an ambush. Still dazed, Hyun is assigned to provide support from the rear, but with only 2.5 minutes of archery experience, Hyun panics. If he could master archery in one day, he would have joined the national team instead of learning to cook. But the situation doesn't allow hesitation. Hyun struggles to draw the bow following Randolph's instructions. As his right hand releases, the arrow shoots forward rapidly. Unfortunately, Hyun misses his target. Fortunately, Marshmallow dodges Hyun's friendly fire. But this feeling of betrayal will probably be etched in Marshmallow's soul forever, even though Hyun didn't mean it. The scene shifts as the sun slowly sets in the other world. Randolph skillfully prepares meat by the campfire. Behind him, Hyun fights to regain feeling in his fading arms. But when he sees Randolph's grilled meat, he's shocked. Looking at it only reminds him of the jumping bird's magnificent physique. And can meat with no seasoning really be edible? Soon, Hyun notices Marshmallow has disappeared. That guy actually ran away. Hyun takes a small bite of the meat and his eyes widen. Apparently, humans can still tell that food is bad, even without a sense of taste. Seeing this, Randolph mistakes it for amazement at his cooking. Excited, Randolph picks up more raw meat, ready to continue his culinary display. This startles Hyun to his feet, but he can't use his lack of taste as an excuse. Besides, he's not confident cooking with unfamiliar meat, but thinking about wasting food just to be polite, Hyun lets go of his hesitation. Hyun's presence suddenly shifts. He mentions that he did say he's a chef, so let me handle cooking the jumping bird meat this time. First, wash the cut meat to remove blood and let it sit for several hours. Next, make a broth using half water and half beer. This effectively removes the gamey flavor from the jumping bird meat. However, this wasteful use of beer immediately confuses Randolph. After all, beer is a rare luxury in this world. Soon, the bothersome Randolph is sent to set up the pot stand. Hyun prepares the necessary onions, pepper, sugar, and salt. Finally, all ingredients go into the pot to simmer for an hour. Before long, the aroma draws the runaway marshmallow back. When Hyun opens the pot, the combined aroma of beer and tendon meat pours out. Randolph and Marshmallow can barely contain themselves. But the cooking isn't finished. Normally, the meat would go in the oven, but given the limited resources in this world, the campfire will have to do. The dancing flames create a thin, crispy layer on the meat's surface, and with that, the jumping bird tendon dish is complete. Randolph stares in disbelief at the sliced meat in his hands. He can't believe this rich aroma is coming from the food he's holding. Randolph hasn't told Hyun that jumping birds are actually raised by the realm's most famous chefs, but the temptation of the food makes him forget everything. Randolph slowly places a piece in his mouth. He's instantly conquered by this amazing flavor. The outer layer is crispy like a cracker, while maintaining the jumping bird's natural chewy texture. The beer braised juices blend perfectly with the meat's natural flavor. But Randolph feels something is still missing. That's right, he needs an ice-cold beer. As a big gulp of beer slides down his throat, an unprecedented sense of satisfaction hits him. Paired with this crispy, juicy jumping bird, it's a perfect match. Hyun's dish is the perfect drinking food. He could eat this jumping bird every day without getting tired of it. Hearing this, Hyun tilts his head. He doesn't feel accomplished, instead thinking he didn't soak the meat long enough. But from how quickly Marshmallow cleans its plate, it's clearly very satisfied. Randolph freezes as Hyun keeps analyzing what he considers the perfect dish. To create food this good and still not be satisfied, this level of skill could make him a top chef in the capital. So who are you really, Hyun? The scene shifts to late at night. Only after eating is filled does Randolph realize he meant to treat his guest, but ended up being treated instead. But Hyun doesn't mind. As long as diners are satisfied with his food, that's the greatest reward for a chef. Randolph asks if Hyun can give him the recipe. When Hyun casually agrees, he can hardly believe it. Having many chef friends, Randolph knows the value of this recipe. Then he says the same thing Mrs. Park said. Your cooking is amazing, Hyun. Don't devalue yourself. Touched, Hyun sincerely thanks Randolph. However, Randolph can't accept the recipe for free. He decides to offer something of equal value in exchange. Let me teach you swordsmanship, Hyun. Hyun's whole body trembles. He forces a smile. He's a chef. What use is swordsmanship? But Randolph ignores Hyun's awkwardness, going on about his glorious past to prove his swordsmanship is worth the recipe. Countless people have sought him out for training, but none caught his eye, so you don't need to feel burdened. Just prepare a beer and some drinking food for each lesson. Hyun finally understands the situation. Maybe Randolph feels awkward eating for free, so he proposed this arrangement. While Hyun doesn't mind, Randolph would clearly feel uncomfortable. Thinking this, Hyun goes along with Randolph's proposal. He'll just treat swordsmanship as exercise. What Hyun doesn't know is that this decision will completely change his future journey in the other world. The scene shifts to 1 week after opening. During this time, quite a few villagers have tried Hyun's restaurant, but it proves impossible to make money running an Italian restaurant in this village. Hyun actually expected this outcome. Meanwhile, Marshmallow focuses intently on the TV, a gift from a villager who no longer needed it. Hyun leans over to see what has Marshmallow so absorbed. The TV shows several young, vibrant girls chatting. Looking at the logo, it's an idol training reality show. Who knew Marshmallow from another world would become a fan of idols? The scene shifts to manager Kim. He's the manager of those 4 idol girls on TV. The girls are complaining to him about the hardships of filming the rural variety show. Kim can only smile and humor the rookie artists. Having just dealt with the chaotic outdoor filming, he's exhausted too. In comparison, working in the office is more comfortable. Checking the schedule, he notices he's very close to Hyun's location. After all this time, he really wants to check on Hyun. The 4 girls notice this. From their manager's conversation, they figured out who's on the other end. The 4 quietly scheme together. After all, he's the famous chef from Hanam-dong. Unaware of their plan, Kim prepares to drive to Pyeongchang alone, instructing them to follow the assistant's arrangements. Seeing the 4 idols agree so readily, he feels a sudden unease, but he can't pinpoint what's wrong. He gets in the car and drives away. The assistant prepares to take the artists back to the dorm. Suddenly, 4 mischievous faces surround him. The leader points ahead and tells the assistant to follow. The assistant tenses up in shock. He would never disobey the manager's orders, but if he's forced, there's nothing he can do. The scene moves to Hyun's Western restaurant. Hyun is annoyed to learn his friend is coming immediately without even considering if he might be busy, though he's not busy right now. In that case, he might as well face it. Marshmallow remains focused on the TV show. At this moment, a figure storms into the restaurant. Kim appears furiously, carrying the wilted assistant. Spotting a tailing car in this remote village was easy. Seeing this, Hyun has no idea what's going on. 4 glamorous figures suddenly appear behind Kim. Hello, we're the company's newly debuted idol group. Who would have thought in such a remote village restaurant 4 idol artists would show up today? Manager Kim is seething with anger and has nowhere to vent. Artists disobeying company orders is a serious matter in South Korea. Seeing this, Hyun finally understands the whole situation, and that pitiful-looking assistant sitting to the side. So Hyun approaches and tells Kim not to be angry. Since everyone came all this way, why not have dinner before heading back? Kim is stunned. The Hyun I knew would never say that, he thinks. Before Kim can respond, the artists all start ordering excitedly. Has living here truly healed Hyun? Hyun? Thinking this, Kim glances at Marshmallow behind him. Come to think of it, Hyun never had pets before. The scene shifts to the kitchen. Hyun is thinking about making something the young artist would enjoy, considering his current ingredient stock. Hyun opens the refrigerator. In front of a small box, Hyun makes his decision. He opens the box of cherry tomatoes. The sweet and tangy flavor will definitely appeal to young people. To make it more filling, Hyun also grills some steak. Soon, the tomato pasta and steak salad are ready. The beautifully plated dishes and enticing aroma make the girls gasp in admiration after everyone takes a bite. Even the girl who normally doesn't eat cheese or cream is conquered by this tomato pasta. The tender, delicious steak paired with fresh vegetables, combined with the carefully crafted signature sauce, creates an incredibly rich taste. Hyun specifically comes over to tell Kim to let them finish their meal in peace. But at this moment, one of the girls actually starts crying. Hyun's food makes her feel like her life before this was wasted. The purple-haired girl is even more dramatic, saying Hyun's food is so good it makes her angry. This bizarre reaction makes Hyun wonder if manager Kim has been mistreating his artists. For the assistant, Hyun also prepared food. Since the drive back is long, he added extra sugar to help keep him alert. Kim looks at Hyun as if at a stranger. The former celebrity chef never took care of others like this. Could it be that Hyun doesn't have much time left? Soon, everyone finishes dinner and says goodbye to Hyun. As always, Hyun mentions he could have done better, but didn't have enough ingredients prepared on such short notice. The girls enthusiastically thank Hyun. They'll definitely visit the celebrity chef again. Hearing this, Hyun tenses up. Have people found out he's been hiding out here? Through Kim's explanation, Hyun learns that these girls search for his past cooking videos whenever they're hungry. Not recognizing him in person would be impossible. With that, Kim opens the car door, ready to head back. Hyun says they're welcome anytime, as long as they don't ambush him again. Before leaving, Kim specifically asks if Hyun's healing has made any progress. Hyun freezes for a moment, then responds with a faint smile. Thanks to Marshmallow, his healing here is going well. The next day, Hyun and Marshmallow head to the village market to stock up on supplies. As the bicycle stops, Hyun arrives at the village's only supermarket. He steps inside. As soon as Hyun looks up, he notices something different. The old lady who used to run this place is gone. Could this dark-skinned woman be her daughter-in-law? Aware of his lapse, Hyun manages a hesitant greeting. Hyun notices there are no daylilies for sale today. Since Mrs. Park is a regular customer, he needs to buy some daylilies daily. Hyun specifically asks the woman to confirm there are no daylilies today. In that case, he'll have to go to a farther town to buy some. But as soon as Hyun exits the supermarket, a commotion nearby catches his attention. Two children are fighting intensely in the street. They even make harsh vows to never play together again. The boy can't stand having his hair pulled by the girl anymore, so he yells at the little girl to go back to her own country. These words hit the girl like a punch, bringing tears to her eyes. At this moment, Hyun steps in and stops them both. He tells them that words once spoken can never be taken back. Are you certain your future self won't regret this? At the same time, the woman from the supermarket is drawn by the noise. When she sees what's happening, she panics. She's actually the little girl Emily's mother. Emily throws herself into the woman's arms, crying. The boy perhaps realizes he said something too harsh. He forcefully shakes off Hyun's hand and runs away without looking back. After a while, the woman gratefully thanks Hyun. She's very grateful that Hyun helped Emily avoid being bullied. Learning that the little girl has now fallen asleep peacefully, Hyun finally relaxes. The woman lowers her head slightly and tells Hyun this is all because of her. Hyun waves his hands. Children having squabbles is completely normal. The woman introduces herself as Yuna. She's actually from Vietnam. That's why her daughter Emily faces exclusion from her peers. Yuna suddenly says she wants to learn Korean cuisine from Hyun. Hyun is shocked at her words. It turns out that her Vietnamese background has led to her daughter Emily to be excluded from the other local kids. Besides, her daughter's birthday is coming up soon. To accommodate the taste of the kids coming to the party, Yuna wants Hyun, a restaurant owner, to teach her how to make Korean dishes. Hyun is at a loss about how to refuse her request. His specialty isn't even Korean cuisine, but that's what a devoted mother in a foreign land would do. She just wants a better environment for her daughter. Just then, Marshmallow eagerly bounds over to Hyun. It's carrying a can of premium caviar in its mouth. It seems that Marshmallow wants Hyun to open the can. Seeing this, Hyun mutters in dissatisfaction that eating caviar alone isn't tasty, and it's too much that Marshmallow only comes to him when it needs something. At this thought, Hyun seems to understand something. Asking for help when facing difficulties is the wisest choice. So Hyun, looking nervous, grabs a box of gifts and heads out. He believes this visit will definitely resolve his doubts. As the door slowly opens, Sujin's face comes into view. She's very surprised by Hyun's sudden visit. At the same time, the village chief happens to be visiting Jung Myung-ho and his wife. After hearing about Hyun's trouble, the chief is the first to voice his dissatisfaction. For this kind of thing, Hyun should definitely come to him first. Isn't it just the simple matter of preparing food for a kid's birthday party? After understanding the whole situation, Sujin says she also has some impression of Emily. She and Sang-hoo, who had wanted a hamburger, are classmates too. Hyun is quite surprised. He didn't expect Emily and Sang-hoo to attend the same school. Myung-ho tells Hyun that the children in the village actually all attend the same school. Right now, there are fewer than 20 children attending school in the village, so they're all in the same multi-grade classroom. Then Sujin gently touches her pregnant belly. She deeply empathizes with Emily's mother. If it were her, she would probably do even more for her child. All of this is simply hoping the child won't be hurt. So the approach to teaching quick Korean cooking should be the complete opposite. Just as Hyun is about to propose a solution, the chief cuts in casually. Why not just let Emily's mother cook dishes from her own country? Hyun doesn't doesn't understand what the chief means. The chief then explains that even if she rushes to learn Korean dishes, Emily will definitely feel self-conscious about it. Children at their age don't know how to accept things from the outside world that differ from themselves. So as adults, we should step up and tell them that being different isn't wrong. So Hyun, just do as I say. Rather than saying it 100 times, eating it once will make them understand. The scene shifts to Yuna's house. She still feels doubtful about what Hyun said. Vietnamese and Korean dishes are obviously very different. Why would Hyun want her to make dishes from her own country? What if the children don't like it? At the same time, she recalls Hyun's advice that onions can be strained out and discarded after making the soup, as many children don't like them. Hyun originally thought of preparing delicate, fresh Vietnamese spring rolls for her, but considering the complicated process and kids being picky eaters, Hyun recommends using fried spring rolls stuffed with rice balls instead. Their crispy texture will definitely be welcomed by the kids, and introducing them as Vietnamese dumplings will definitely be more interesting. Hearing this, Yuna is already in complete admiration. He can both consider the diner's feelings and create delicate, delicious dishes. With Hyun's help, this birthday party will definitely be fine. Soon, after Yuna's busy work in the kitchen, a plate of distinctly Southeast Asian food is brought out. Rice noodles are an indispensable part of Vietnamese cuisine. Mix the fried meat patties with rice noodles and vegetables, and dip them in specially prepared sauce. Even though Hyun has lost his sense of taste, he can feel the tangy aroma and refreshing texture the food gives off. The kids will surely find it very novel. Thinking of this, Hyun says this dish is very suitable as a main course. But could Yuna pour him a glass of water? Just as Yuna is pouring water, a white figure suddenly emerges from Hyun's hat. It nimbly approaches the bowl and sniffs at it, then immediately starts munching away. The next second, its tail spins like a helicopter rotor at the fastest speed ever, which is enough to prove this dish's value. When Yuna comes back after pouring water and sees Hyun's messy face, she's puzzled. Hyun pretends nothing happened, and continues to remind her that since it's food for kids, go easy on the chili peppers. To make the meatballs crispier, use a 2-to-1 ratio of beef to pork. If she follows all his instructions, Hyun guarantees that the kids will enjoy eating it. After hearing Chef Hyun's words, Yuna's worries finally ease. The scene shifts as Hyun and Marshmallow finish their visit to Emily's house. Fortunately, Yuna has good cooking skills, so there will definitely be no problem on the birthday party day. Just as Hyun is walking back happily, a figure suddenly calls out to him. Seeing who it is, Hyun realizes it's Emily. Emily hands Hyun a piece of paper filled with writing and drawings. It turns out this is Emily's handmade birthday party invitation. Without it, no one gets in. She hopes Hyun will come to her party too, because Emily thinks not many people will come that day anyway. The boy Chul Myung, who had a fight with her earlier, has many friends. Now that they've had their conflict, everyone definitely won't come. At these words, Hyun can't help but stand frozen. Soon it's Emily's birthday. At this moment, Emily is even worrying about whether Hyun will come today, and those few friends she's usually close with. In any case, there shouldn't be no one at all today, right? Thinking this, Emily feels increasingly uneasy. Suddenly, a sweet voice calls out to Emily. Emily, with a worried face, is immediately drawn to it. Yuna, wearing a traditional Vietnamese dress that displays elegance, prompts Emily to ask admiringly what kind of clothes these are. Yuna says these are clothes from her country, and asks if Emily would like to try them on. The scene shifts and Emily cheerfully changes into her country's clothing, a red tunic paired with white pants. The light fabric makes Emily feel very comfortable. Suddenly, the doorbell interrupts Emily's thoughts. Yuna quickly asks Emily to greet the guest. Walking to the door, Emily keeps guessing who the first guest will be. Her good friend Ah Young, Sang-hoo, or maybe Hyun? So she opens the door with a mix of doubt and excitement. Unexpectedly, this guest is completely beyond her expectations. The visitor is wearing a long-sleeved shirt and shorts, and the fidgeting of his fingers shows he's also very nervous. Perhaps because she didn't dare hope he would come. Emily stands frozen in place for a moment. The first to arrive is actually Chul Myung, who just had a fight with her. Emily looks coldly at the boy in front of her. She's still very angry about what Chul Myung said before. So Emily wants to refuse his entry on the grounds that he doesn't have a birthday party invitation. But just as she's about to close the door, a loud "I'm sorry" interrupts her. Chul Myung keeps apologizing to Emily with his head down, explaining that he only said those things because he was too angry at the time. But these past few days, he's really realized he was wrong. Then Chul Myung, with tears on his face, pleads for Emily to forgive him. Hearing this, all of Emily's hurt feelings disappear. She hadn't expected Chul Myung, who cares so much about his pride, to show up and apologize on her birthday. It's just that today's rule is you must have an invitation to attend the birthday party. If you don't have this invitation, you can't go into the party. At these words, Chul Myung's heart sinks. Because of their falling out before, he indeed didn't receive this invitation. However, the next second, Emily holds out the invitation in her hand straight to him. Now you have an invitation, don't you? Receiving the invitation, Chul Myung finally breathes a sigh of relief. He knows Emily has already forgiven him. Suddenly, 3 little heads peek out from beside the wall, saying they've been waiting here for a long time. Then everyone starts talking over each other, criticizing that Chul Myung really went too far before. They're all friends Emily invited to the birthday party before. Emily, happy birthday. Soon, one dish after another is brought to the table. Seeing the novel food in front of them, the kids can't help but exclaim in amazement. Hyun, who has been busy in the kitchen, looks at the many kids and calculates carefully. It seems like all the students in the school have been invited by Emily. Next, Yuna steps forward to introduce how to eat the food. Just dip the meat and rice noodles together in the sauce and you can eat them. Hearing this, 2 girls can't wait to try. Suddenly, an unexpected flavor bursts in their mouths. The soft rice noodles and crispy fried meat roll around in their mouths, Combined with the sweet and sour sauce, the taste is indescribably delicious. On the other side, a girl named Vivi swears after eating the fried spring rolls that she'll marry them someday. At this moment, Sang-hoo also notices Emily's unusual clothing and quickly asks what kind of clothes these are, saying they feel so special. Hearing this, Emily excitedly stands up and introduces to everyone that these clothes are traditional Vietnamese clothing from her mother's country. And all the delicious food today is local Vietnamese cuisine. As soon as she finishes speaking, Vivi is suddenly inspired. She'll marry these beautiful clothes too. Seeing her friends being so supportive, Emily quickly runs to her mother. She wants to bring Yuna over to introduce her to her friends. They're wearing matching outfits. Hearing this, Hyun waves his hand confidently, telling Yuna she can rest assured he'll take care of all the remaining kitchen work. Seeing this, Emily excitedly runs toward her friends with her mother, watching her daughter's face beaming with a happy smile. Yuna can't help but show a gentle smile. At this moment, Hyun sits far in the back. Looking at Yuna and Emily now, he thinks, this is happiness embodied. The scene shifts to somewhere in the other world. A red-haired woman wearing skull decorations sits on a blanket listening to her subordinate's report. Hearing that her daughter has once again run off from the tribe without permission, the woman isn't angry. Even though they increased the guards compared to last time, her precious daughter still slipped away. Perhaps she ran off to see that human, just like the first time. But what kind of human can have a sacred wolf descendant by his side and even capture her daughter's heart? Hearing this, the subordinate's heart sinks. The chief cherishes her daughter most of all. Then the woman in charge orders her subordinate to definitely invite that human to the tribe. She wants to see just what great ability this human has to capture her daughter's heart. The scene shifts to deep in a forest. Suddenly, a huge and deep growl spreads throughout the entire forest. At the same time, Hyun is tightly covering his ears. It turns out this terrifying noise is actually coming from Marshmallow. It's giving a warning growl at the shrimp in front of it. Hyun, watching from the side, is very puzzled by this. It's not afraid of jumping birds dozens of times larger than itself. How can it have such hostility toward a shrimp that's so much smaller than it and already dead? Then Hyun jokingly asks if it feels disgusted because it's seeing shrimp for the first time. But on second thought, Hyun realizes he said the wrong thing. Compared to the monsters Marshmallow usually hunts, which one is more disgusting? So Marshmallow, what exactly are your standards? However, Hyun believes Marshmallow will definitely change its mind after tasting shrimp. First, remove the shrimp's antennae and the dark vein along its back. Then spread a layer of coarse salt in a pan. Next, neatly place the shrimp on top of the coarse salt. Finally, cover with a lid and wait for the delicious food. Originally, Hyun wanted to prepare this food for Randolph, but since he prepared a lot of ingredients, they can enjoy it in advance. The scene shifts and there seems to be an extra figure beside Marshmallow. Hyun looks at this drooling familiar figure with confusion. When did she come over? And how can she squat beside them waiting to eat so naturally? Just like Marshmallow, Hyun figures it's just one more mouth to feed and dismisses the thought. As the shell peels away, the plump shrimp meat is perfectly revealed. Soon, 3 peeled salt-baked shrimp are placed in front of Marshmallow and Mona. Then Marshmallow and Mona almost simultaneously eat the shrimp meat. Suddenly, a towering wave rises on the spot. Marshmallow and Mona are soaring through the ocean riding on enormous shrimp. With a ripping sound, Marshmallow bites off a big piece of shrimp meat. This is the legendary essence of the sea, captured on the tongue. After getting a taste, the two diners begin a new round of devouring. Seeing his food being enjoyed so much, Hyun feels secretly pleased. In an instant, they finish all 3 shrimp. Suddenly, a stern call of Mona interrupts this warm scene. Hearing this familiar voice, Mona's fur stands on end. Then she quickly hides behind Hyun. It turns out that Noah, the subordinate of Mona's mother, has found them. After standing stunned for a moment, Hyun seems to understand the situation, so he tells Noah to wait a bit. It's not too late to take Mona home after she finishes eating, and you can rest assured I won't feed her anything strange. However, according to Noah, the list for today's return also includes Hyun, the human. Before Hyun can react, Noah uses a tone that brooks no refusal, telling Hyun to come along. At this moment, Hyun, still holding a wrapped piece of shrimp, stands frozen. Why does he have to go back too? Just as both sides are still in a standoff. Noah says this is their chief's order, and the chief is none other than Mona's mother. Hearing this, Hyun instinctively glances at Mona beside him. He didn't expect her background to be so significant. But for the moment, Hyun can't figure out their real intentions. So Hyun deflects, responding that he doesn't have free time right now. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Noah actually stops pressing Hyun and instead takes out a horn-shaped object and hands it to him, and says that when Hyun has free time, he can blow the horn to summon Noah to come pick him up. Receiving the horn, Hyun didn't expect they to value him so much, but Noah's next words scare him. The chief said she wants to see who has such charm to be wandering around outside with her daughter. With that, Noah turns to leave. Behind him, Hyun is already scared stiff and trembling. Just then, Hyun suddenly snaps out of it and calls out to the departing Noah. The scene shifts to the Mona's hometown, the Beastkin village. Noah returns here carrying a black plastic bag. The bag is filled with cooked salt-baked shrimp. It turns out Hyun was afraid Noah would have trouble explaining if he returned empty-handed, so he had him take some food back to share with his family. Then, in the glow of the setting sun, Noah begins to study the food in front of him alone. Soon, only the sound of someone chewing can be heard in the yurt, and the sound of wind stirred up by a tail wagging faster and faster. On On the other side, having just seen off Noah, Hyun lets out a deep sigh. He can't tell whether Mona's family means him harm by wanting to see him. Yet, Marshmallow doesn't seem to sense any hostility from them. It would be so nice if someone could help him figure this out. As soon as he finishes speaking, Randolph appears right on cue. Seeing who he is, Hyun is overjoyed, but he seems to be caught up in some confusion at the moment. Soon, Hyun tells Randolph the whole story from beginning to end. Hearing the news that Hyun has been invited by the Beastkin, he's also shocked. It turns out that humans and Beastkin in this world haven't had contact for a long time. This is the first time in Randolph's life he's heard of the Beastkin inviting a human to visit their village. He's never even heard of a Beastkin child being left in the care of a human. But judging from Hyun's expression, Randolph realizes he has no idea how serious this matter is. Then Randolph says it's fine for Hyun to accept the invitation to the Beastkin. Their attitude doesn't seem very hostile. Now that Randolph, a local, has explained the situation, Hyun's worries finally fade. Still, he will have to accept their invitation another time. Right now, the most important thing is to let Randolph enjoy the food. After Hyun's careful preparation, a sizzling plate of perfectly cooked butter-baked shrimp is ready. The enticing aroma unconsciously makes the diners drool. Next, Hyun introduces how to eat this dish. Just remove the head and peel the shell. Looking at the novel food in front of him, Randolph can't help but wonder where Hyun got these unusual ingredients. Then Randolph eats the shrimp meat in one bite. Suddenly, the essence of the ocean tumbles through Randolph's mouth. The firm, fresh shrimp meat paired with lemon and garlic has a very rich texture. The blend of sour, salty, spicy, and fresh flavors leaves Randolph both deeply satisfied and craving more. More importantly, its flavor is actually addictive. However, there's one very insignificant drawback. Removing the head and shell is too much trouble. Seeing this, Marshmallow and Mona mimic him and start eating without waiting for the shells to be peeled. This is definitely not complaining that Hyun's peeling is too slow, and the three diners don't seem to mind the shell on experience. They even feel it has a unique flavor this way. Soon, they finish all the shrimp Hyun brought. Marshmallow and Mona's bellies are stuffed round. Then Randolph says he can't eat Hyun's food for free. Get ready and we'll start today's training session. Hearing this, Hyun suddenly remembers he promised Randolph he would learn swordsmanship. Next, Randolph says the first day's training won't be very difficult, just some basic exercises. As the sun slowly sets, an exhausted Hyun collapses into a pile of grass. Randolph didn't expect Hyun's stamina to be so poor. He only had him climb mountains for just 4 hours. It seems there's still a long way to go with basic training. At this moment, Marshmallow feels sorry for Hyun and comes forward to comfort the exhausted man. Marshmallow's tongue gently licks Hyun's calves. A refreshing sensation washes over Hyun, soothing like a cooling balm. Suddenly, Mona mimics this and starts licking Hyun's other calf, but the excessive drool nearly soaks Hyun's pants. Seeing this, Hyun struggles to sit up and pushes away Mona. Indeed, the difference is clear. Then Randolph evaluates Hyun's performance on the first day. Not giving up at the start of training is already a very good quality. Next, Randolph gives Hyun the wooden sword he's been wearing on his back. This was originally a training tool he carefully made for his daughter. Hearing this, Hyun quickly refuses, saying this gift is much too valuable. Before he finishes, Randolph says calmly that his daughter has a phobia of sharp objects. Perhaps she's destined to have no connection with swordsmanship. Changing the subject, Randolph regains his confidence. He says Hyun must practice for his daughter's share too. He's determined to train Hyun into a powerful warrior. Hearing this, Hyun can only silently accept the wooden sword. It seems his muscles won't have peace for a while. The scene shifts as Hyun and Marshmallow return to the restaurant in Pyeongchang. At this moment, he's already prepared a late-night snack for himself and Marshmallow. Today, Hyun's physical exertion in the other world really took a toll on him. Then he serves the mixed noodles to Marshmallow. It only has some bacon and garlic. He wonders if Marshmallow will like it. Watching Marshmallow devour it, Hyun feels relieved. However, after taking just one bite of noodles, Hyun freezes in place. Even Marshmallow notices something is wrong with Hyun. With a thud, Hyun puts down his chopsticks. Then at lightning speed, he takes out seasonings from the cabinet. In an instant, dozens of bottles of seasoning are all opened by Hyun. The scene shifts. Hyun grips the counter tightly, breathing heavily. Hyun, who lost his sense of taste long ago due to work stress, has miraculously regained his sense of taste. Although not fully recovered, this is still a huge surprise. Hyun originally came here feeling defeated and hopeless. If he had chosen to stay in Seoul, he might have given up being a chef. Now, with his sense of taste recovering, Hyun has rekindled the hope in his heart. Choosing to come to Pyeongchang was indeed the right decision. Soon, it's late at night. The village chief is humming a tune and swaying as he walks toward home. Old man Choi at the village entrance tempted him into drinking a few too many. Suddenly, a light nearby attracts his attention. Looking closely, the chief realizes this is the restaurant of that great chef from Seoul. At the same time, Hyun is busy in the kitchen. To celebrate regaining his sense of taste, he wants to make a delicious dish for Marshmallow. This is Hyun's specialty signature dish. The first time he presented it in a competition, he won an award. Then Hyun eagerly picks up a piece of meat and puts it in his mouth to taste. But soon, Hyun dejectedly removes his chef's hat. Even though he's regained his sense of taste, he still can't taste the precise flavors in the food. Just then, Marshmallow keeps pawing at Hyun's pant leg. Its desire for food is already showing through its expression and wildly wagging tail. Hyun, who is immersed in disappointment, is suddenly amused. Even recovering half his sense of taste is something to be happy about. So, Marshmallow, enjoy to your heart's content. The scene shifts to the next day. At this moment, the door of Hyun's restaurant is almost being knocked down. Woken up, Hyun can only get up resentfully to open the door. Unexpectedly, an even more fierce face greets him. The chief urgently says something urgent has happened in the the village and Hyun needs to come. By the time Marshmallow wobbles out the door, Hyun has already been forcibly pushed into the van by the chief. Then the van speeds off with a stomp on the gas, leaving only Marshmallow's confused figure standing in the wind. Soon the chief brings Hyun to the town hospital. It turns out that Myung-ho's wife is about to give birth. When Hyun arrives at the delivery room door, he finds it's already packed with people. Through the villagers' conversation, he learns today isn't actually Soo-jin's estimated delivery date, because Soo-jin's water broke suddenly last night. She was rushed to the hospital. Suddenly, a shout interrupts the villagers' chatter. Mrs. Park says this isn't a market. So many people staying here will only interfere with the doctor's work. Hearing this, the chief casually agrees and urges the villagers to leave. Just then, Mrs. Park grabs the chief, who still wants to stay, so even he, as the village chief, is dragged out. In contrast, Hyun, as a new resident of the village, is allowed to stay. Then Mrs. Park says Myung-ho needs a friend by his side right now. With that, she quickly leaves the hospital with the chief, leaving only Hyun, who wants to say something, with his hand frozen in midair. Experiencing this for the first time, Hyun doesn't know how to comfort Myung-ho. He thinks leaving the chief might have been a better choice. Suddenly, Myung-ho, who has been silent for a long time, speaks up. He's very grateful that Hyun came here early in the morning to accompany him. Hyun says he actually hasn't done anything. He's just standing here. But Myung-ho insists that this is enough, even as he feels a mix of worry and anticipation. About to become a father, he's really nervous right now. Thinking about it, Hyun realizes Myung-ho is actually around the same age as him. Who wouldn't be nervous about becoming a father for the first time? The scene shifts outside the hospital. The villagers are excitedly saying it's been a long time since anyone in the village had a baby. They plan to hold a banquet to celebrate when they get back. When Hyun comes out, the chief immediately approaches to ask about the situation inside. Hyun says Myung-ho is now by Soo-jin's side. Then Hyun looks at the enthusiastic villagers beside him and can't help but say that the village stays closed through celebrations and feasts. As soon as he finishes speaking, Hyun remembers being invited to the Beastkin village in the other world. Hyun quickly asks the chief what gifts to bring when visiting another village. The chief immediately reacts, which village is so shameless as to poach people? Yet the chief goes on to answer Hyun when invited, one typically brings gifts like alcohol or regional goods and local specialties. Hearing this, Hyun immediately becomes interested. He quickly asks the chief what specialties their village has. As soon as he finishes speaking, the chief falls silent, then slowly says, maybe Korean beef. Hyun responds that Korean beef probably doesn't count as a Pyeongchang specialty. What follows is an awkward silence between them. Soon, Hyun and Marshmallow come to the other world again. The visiting gift he finally decided on is only the alcohol the chief recommended. As the horn's sound spreads throughout the entire forest, wherever the sound reaches, it causes the animals to poke their heads out to look. Then the sound abruptly stops. Breathing heavily, Hyun doesn't think this thing can be heard by the beastkin. Unexpectedly, a figure whooshes right in front of Hyun. Noah appears before Hyun with Mona. Then Hyun is gently lifted up. Hyun's face is etched with disbelief. Is he seriously supposed to travel like this? But before Hyun can call out, a huge gust of wind completely silences him. After the high-speed dash, Hyun is completely exhausted. Could his physical condition really be as weak as Randolph said? Just then, Mona arrives with Marshmallow. Noah indicates that their beastkin tribe is just ahead. Hearing this, Hyun quickly turns to look. Dozens of yurt-shaped structures sit at the foot of the mountain. Hyun can't help but feel curious about the origin of these yurts. Hearing the strange word yurt, Noah freezes. Do human villages look similar to theirs? At this moment, Hyun recalls what Randolph told him. The main reason Randolph believed the beastkin would have no hostility toward Hyun was because of a covenant. Long ago, this world experienced a massive race war. The entire conflict lasted for hundreds of years. During this time, countless lives were affected and lost. If not for divine intervention, the war would never have ended. Since then, there's been a covenant forbidding wars between different races. Naturally, interactions between different races decreased. So would the Beastkin village really welcome Hyun, a human? Soon, Hyun follows Noah into the interior of the village, and the appearance of a human like him alongside Marshmallow, who is regarded as divine, inevitably draws a crowd. Suddenly, several figures block their path. The leader is a warrior called Taesuk. He holds considerable status among the Beastkin. Clearly, he's very displeased about the chief inviting a human. Seeing this, Noah shields Hyun and reiterates that the invitation came directly from the chief. Taesuk scoffs, declaring that Noah's protection of a human disgraces all Beastkin warriors. Noah's expression grows cold. Just as the tension reaches its peak and they're about to fight, a fierce low growl comes from below. Villagers are shocked to discover the sound came from the sacred wolf. Angering the sacred wolf carries grave consequences. Only then does Taesuk realize there's a sacred wolf in the group. Seeing this, Mona mimics Marshmallow's stance, looking rather comical. This scene prompts the clueless villagers to speculate about Hyun's identity. What kind of human could have Noah, Mona, and the divine wolf all protecting him? In the villagers' eyes, Hyun looks like princess surrounded by guards. Meanwhile, Hyun notices this suffocating situation. He came here by invitation and doesn't want to cause chaos. He just hopes someone will resolve this standoff. Just then, a fiery red figure makes a dramatic entrance through the crowd. Hyun freezes, staring at the uniquely dressed figure before him. At this moment, Noah quickly whispers to Hyun to bow, because this is Chief Kassandrani of the Beastkin. Hearing this, Hyun quickly bows in greeting, while Mona excitedly runs to her mother, Kasan. Kasan tells Hyun not to be nervous. She's invited him today to repay him for looking after her daughter. While Hyun exchanges pleasantries with Kasan, Taesuk feels completely ignored, so he steps forward to make an issue of it, stating that as chief of the Beastkin, she needn't be so courteous to a human. Hearing this, Kasan turns to see that the speaker is warrior Taesuk. She smiles and says she thought some fool wanted wanted to break the covenant, but if it's warrior Tae-suk, she must have misheard. After all, the wise warrior Tae-sik would never say something so foolish. Understanding the sarcasm in Kasan's words, Tae-sik can only back down. Soon, Kasan brings Hyun into a yurt. About the unpleasant encounters in the village, she tells him not to take it to heart. Everyone is simply unfamiliar with humans. Hearing this, Hyun keeps perfectly still where he kneels, because 4 intimidating beastkin villagers have him surrounded. Kasan then says she also wanted to meet the legendary human who could tame the sacred wolf all by himself. Hearing this, an image flashes through Hyun's mind. Could his camping experience in this other world be live-streamed globally? Otherwise, how would Kasan know so much about his adventures here? Kasan brings the conversation back on track, reaffirming that she invited Hyun to repay him for taking care of her daughter. Hearing this, Hyun waves his hands, saying he only fed Mona a few meals. It's not that big of a favor. Besides, today he specially brought some gifts from home to share with the beastkin villagers. As the insulated container is opened, dozens of neatly stacked pieces of cooked meat lie revealed in orderly rows. Hyun explains that they're appetizers he made at home. Kasan, who's already caught the scent, instantly appears in front of Hyun to inspect. So this is where that aroma has been coming from all along. Kasan then asks Hyun when he says these are appetizers, does that mean? Hearing this, Hyun quickly pulls out the sake he prepared, explaining it's a specialty from his hometown. Kasan immediately snatches the sake and hugs it to her chest. She's beginning to understand how this human won over her daughter. However, Hyun warns her not to open the bottle right now. After all the jostling on the journey, it might explode. 2 beastkin villagers instantly pick up on the keyword. They immediately question Hyun's sinister intentions with these gifts. Just as Hyun tries to explain that it's not what they think, Kasan raises her hand and slices the sake bottle with a single swipe. Instantly, carbon dioxide from the sake creates foam that erupts out. This must be the explosion Hyun mentioned. Kasan curiously watches the foam gradually dissipate from the sake in her hand. She tilts her head back and pours the sake into her mouth. This scene leaves the vigilant villagers stunned. They start scolding Chief Kasan for doing something so risky, but all they get in response is Kasan's long burp. After savoring the sake, Kasan is pleasantly surprised. Human craftsmanship is truly remarkable. The sake's fragrant yet sharp taste is amazing. It goes down smooth and easy, yet leaves a strong, bold finish. Kasan then points to the other food in Hyun's backpack, asking if she can try those appetizers now. She picks up a large piece of cooked meat and puts it in her mouth. She's amazed to find the meat incredibly tender and with no off smell. The firm, juicy texture melts away after just a few chews. Kasan then says this delicious meat should be shared with the villagers later. She then bows deeply to Hyun, apologizing. As chief, she failed to control the villagers' disrespectful behavior toward Hyun. The 2 villagers have no choice but to apologize to Hyun repeatedly. Meanwhile, Noah, who had already drawn his weapon, silently feels relieved. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, or this blade would have hit Hyun. Kasan announces that to thank Hyun and enjoy the gifts he brought, all beastkin members should prepare for a celebration. Since this feast is for their honored guest Hyun, everyone must give their utmost effort. The warrior who hunts the most delicious prey will be awarded the hunter's title. So, warriors go forth and prepare for this celebration. By now, Hyun's ears are nearly ringing from Kasan's bellowing. But why do all villages love throwing feasts? Hyun and Kasan sit together within the tribe, chatting. Kasan mentions that as chief, she can only stay in the tribe to watch the children. She suggests Hyun could try hunting too, but Hyun, who values his life, immediately rejects the idea. If he went hunting in this other world, he's convinced he'd be torn to shreds by monsters the moment he stepped out. Hearing this, Kasan simply asks Hyun to stay here and help watch the children. As soon as she says this, Kasan casually shoves a child, sending them flying. Seeing this, Hyun swallows his words. He was about to offer to help with the kids, but it seems beastkin children actually enjoy this kind of rough play with Kasan. Just then, a child suddenly pops out and clamps down hard on Hyun's thigh. This scares Hyun out of his wits. Kasan quickly explains it's because Hyun, as a human, has an irresistible smell to beastkin. She then cheerfully adds that beastkin don't actually eat humans. At this point, Hyun hardly dares believe her. Then make this brat let go. When Hyun finally frees himself from the hungry child, a cloud of dust kicks up, nearly blinding him. As the smoke clears, Hyun sees a massive tiger carcass before him. Villagers exclaim that it's a saber-toothed tiger, one of the fastest land creatures. It is truly worthy of the renowned warrior Tae-suk to hunt such a powerful monster. Even Kasan praises Tae-suk's strength. However, hearing everyone's flattery, Tae-suk gets a bit cocky. He actually starts mocking Kasan, saying if she's never seen such a powerful monster, maybe she shouldn't be chief. She shouldn't hang on to the position just because of some false pride. Hearing this, Hyun is rendered speechless. Warrior Tae-sik acts like a child. Wouldn't it be faster to just fight it out rather than waste time on all this arguing? Hyun quickly applauds, praising Tae-suk for hunting such a cute monster. Truly impressive. This makes Tae-mook grit his teeth in anger. Even Kasan begins to doubt if there's something wrong with Hyun's eyesight. But Hyun genuinely thinks Tae-suk's prey is fluffy with 4 legs. That should count as cute, right? Because the monster's marshmallow catches are all disgusting. Suddenly, a massive 2-headed serpent appears behind the 3 of them. Sharp-eyed warriors recognize it. The forest's dreaded, venomous 2-headed serpent, notorious for striking any creature that dares approach. The one who caught the serpent notices Tae-suk, and the others staring. Marshmallow smirks with disdain. Compared to this, Tae-suk's catch is child's play. Meanwhile, Mona is excitedly rushing back with a brown field mouse in her mouth. She's certain her performance will earn praise from her mother and Hyun, but when she sees the 2 giant beasts, she's stunned. At the same time, Noah witnesses this scene. The sacred sacred wolf truly lives up to its reputation. Even it is young, it possesses such power, but the outcome of this competition isn't certain yet. Noah has also caught equally impressive prey. Soon, all the Beastkin warriors return with their catches. After some deliberation, Kasan has reached her decision. Which warrior's prey will earn the honor of the hunter's title? Meanwhile, Mona, distracted for just a moment, loses her field mouse. As a result, she is disqualified. The winner is Hadley, who brought back a wild pheasant. Hadley points at herself in disbelief. She didn't mishear, did she? The most agitated Tae-seok quickly steps forward to object. Kasan calmly explains that everyone may not have heard the rules clearly. She didn't ask for the strongest prey, but the most delicious prey. A hunter who only knows how to hunt isn't the best hunter. The title belongs to one with the vision to select prey that fits the purpose. Hearing this, Noah is the first to stand up and support Kasan's statement. The dissenting voices immediately fade, so Kasan waves her hand and declares the celebration officially begins. Seeing this, Hyun finally breathes a sigh of relief. Good thing Marshmallow didn't win the title, or they'd surely face resentment in the village. The scene shifts. The Beastkin's bonfire celebration begins. Everyone's excitedly roasting the prey they brought back, but Hyun's expression is grim. Kasan notices and quickly asks what's wrong. The gamey smell in the air is making Hyun uncomfortable. He can't understand how everyone ignores the strong gamey smell. Don't they have any seasonings to remove the odor? Kasan responds that the gamey smell is perfectly normal. It's the meat Hyun brought that's unusual. The villagers found it so delicious they devoured it instantly. But Kasan soon notices her daughter Mona seems to have no appetite and is rejecting the food. Marshmallow's condition is even worse. Accustomed to fine dining, how could it stomach this gamey meat? Just as Hyun struggles internally about whether to cook himself, Kasan shoves meat into his mouth. This angers Hyun so much that he announces he'll cook himself and orders Marshmallow to gather some sour fruits. He then deftly opens his portable toolkit and his grill pan. This immediately draws curious villagers. First, he places the raw meat on the grill until the surface forms a crispy layer. Then he flips the pan and adds an appropriate amount of sake. Next, to remove the gamey smell, he adds the fruits Marshmallow fetched to counteract and tame the meat's alkalinity. Finally, he simmers it over high heat for 30 minutes until the meat becomes tender. And just like that, the delicious braised meat is complete. Hyun then begins slicing the cooked meat, but he finds that the available seasonings aren't enough to remove all the gamey smell. This isn't the pork he usually works with, and the fruits don't have the acidity of lemons. At this moment, Kasan casually picks up a slice and tosses it in her mouth. After eating it, she's amazed to find the taste is somewhat similar to the meat Hyun brought. Is this really the meat they hunted? The gamey smell is already minimal. Is Hyun still not satisfied? Hyun declares solemnly that he's a chef, so from now on, all the cooking should be left to him. Everyone just needs to prepare to eat. Just then, hearty laughter interrupts Hyun's seriousness. Hyun's attitude, whether cautious or generous, amuses Kasan. She says having a guest cook for everyone is absurd. They all saw how Hyun prepared the meat, so Kasan tells the villagers to follow his example and remove the gamey smell. According to Beastkin tradition, everyone cooks their own catch. So Hyun, we appreciate your kind offer. Seeing this, Hyun takes on the role of culinary instructor for the Beastkin villagers. After all, as a guest, he must respect local customs, right? The scene shifts. The sun quietly sets. It's time to part. Kasan says Noah will escort Hyun out. She then hands Hyun a whistle-shaped object. She explains this is a Beastkin token. Whenever he needs help, he can blow it. Accepting this means Hyun is now a friend of the Beastkin. Next morning, at Pyeongchang restaurant, suddenly a sweaty, unexpected visitor disrupts the morning peace. Seeing his outfit, Hyun becomes alert. Is his restaurant about to be robbed? Seeing the person bundled up tightly, Hyun thinks he's encountered a wanted criminal. He deeply regrets not installing security cameras in the shop earlier. Fortunately, the mysterious customer has no ill intentions. But after looking at the menu, he orders spaghetti. Hyun finds this unbelievable. In all his time running a Western restaurant in Pyeongchang, this is the first customer to order this type of pasta. So Hyun enthusiastically recommends his specialty, clam spaghetti. The pasta is already in the pot. Spaghetti is a type of Italian pasta that has a chewier texture compared to other varieties. Hyun fries the seasonings until fragrant, then adds the clams. Next, he adds a bit of sake and stir-fries vigorously. Finally, a delicious plate of clam spaghetti is complete. When the dish is placed before the customer, he freezes. Can such food really be made in such a remote place? He slowly puts the spaghetti in his mouth. Instantly, the rich flavor of clams bursts in his mouth, yet there's no trace of greasiness. The perfectly balanced seasoning is irresistible. The man can't help but glance up at Hyun. Why would such an excellent chef open a restaurant here? Just as the man ponders this question, the TV suddenly interrupts his thoughts. The TV is broadcasting news about artist Jung Ki-hoon's brilliant achievements in the art world. Hearing this, the mysterious man quickly pulls his coat over his head. Watching this, Hyun wonders if there's something wrong with his food. Soon, the man finishes all the spaghetti. Before leaving, he keeps marveling at eating such delicious food here. Hyun asks if he particularly likes Italian-style food, because he happens to specialize in this cuisine. The man asks if Hyun can make Italian vegetable soup. Hyun is stunned. He didn't expect the man to actually have a specific dish in mind. In his understanding, Italian vegetable soup is a traditional Italian soup with various vegetables and pasta, as beloved by locals as stuffed pasta with meat sauce. Hyun says he can make it right now. It'll only take 30 minutes, but the mysterious man says he'll come back the next day. He slowly removes his sunglasses and formally introduces himself as Jung Ki-hoon. Hyun finds this this man named Jung Ki-hoon rather strange. Why is he introducing himself out of nowhere? Seeing Hyun's reaction, Ki-hoon is baffled. Does this young man not follow the news at all? Soon after seeing the customer off, Hyun suddenly hears Ki-hoon's name mentioned on the TV behind him. He quickly moves closer to look carefully and discovers that Jung Ki-hoon is actually a very famous artist. In Korea, celebrities are treated with great respect. Realizing his disrespectful behavior, Hyun lets out a cry. He spends the entire night researching Ki-hoon's works and background online. When Ki-hoon arrives the next day, Hyun immediately apologizes. Ki-hoon says it's perfectly normal. He came to the countryside precisely because he's tired of celebrity life. After so many years of high society living, he's grown weary and has been searching for that familiar taste from the past. That's why Ki-hoon asked if Hyun could make Italian vegetable soup. Hyun brings over the finished vegetable soup. Ki-hoon eagerly picks up his spoon to taste it. After a long moment, Ki-hoon remarks that the soup is delicious. However, Hyun, who's been watching him closely, feels disappointed. He knows Ki-hoon's expression isn't one of satisfaction. Ki-hoon explains he's not lying. Hyun's vegetable soup would rank among the finest even in Italy. It's just that it's still different from the soup in his memories. Over 20 years ago, Ki-hoon went to study in Italy alone. He suffered quite a bit there while learning to paint. His meager earnings barely covered a tube of paint, so he survived on plain spaghetti with just a pinch of salt for every meal. Finally, one day, Ki-hoon sold a painting. Though it wasn't much money, he decided to treat himself at a restaurant. What he ordered was a bowl of Italian vegetable soup. For Ki-hoon, it was incredibly precious. After that, he found success through his art, but he never touched Italian food again. Now, in his later years, Ki-hoon has come to understand that even painful memories are precious. He just wants to taste that Italian vegetable soup from years ago one more time. Hyun doesn't understand. If he keeps searching, surely he can find that original taste. After hearing Ki-hoon's story, Hyun's hand on the sofa tightens. Hyun himself went through the same thing in his youth. Going abroad alone to study cooking was the most difficult period of his life. He had to work twice as hard and do everything possible to improve his culinary skills. Hyun stops Ki-hoon, who's about to leave. He wants to know more details about the soup from Ki-hoon's memory. Ki-hoon explains that the soup wasn't actually tasty. The broth was thick, the vegetables cheap. Most memorable was the fishy taste. Perhaps because Amalfi is by the sea, even vegetables carried that smell. Hearing this, Hyun falls into thought. He asks Ki-hoon to come back tomorrow. He wants to make the Italian vegetable soup one more time. Soon, Hyun begins analyzing Ki-hoon's memory. If there's no meat in the vegetable soup, where does the fishy smell come from? Could it have contained caciuco? Caciuco is a seafood soup, an Italian fish soup made by stewing large amounts of various fish and shellfish. But Hyun thinks seafood pairs better with tomatoes. Could Ki-hoon have confused Italian vegetable soup with Spanish seafood soup? After so many years, memories can get distorted. Hyun starts searching for information about Amalfi, the place Ki-hoon mentioned. He's immediately stunned by the scenery on the screen. Amalfi's landscape is this beautiful? After a while, Marshmallow lifts its head in confusion. It doesn't understand why Hyun keeps staring at this glowing thing, talking to himself. Suddenly, Hyun looks at the computer screen excitedly. Perhaps Ki-hoon's description of the soup was quite accurate. The next morning, Hyun hears the doorbell and rushes to greet the visitor. Artist Jung Ki-hoon stands at the door, staring at his phone. He's discovered Hyun's identity as a celebrity chef through online information over the past 2 days. No wonder he cooks so well. Seeing this, Hyun awkwardly changes the subject. Aren't you curious about the Italian vegetable soup I prepared for you today? Ki-hoon says honestly that having Hyun patiently listen to his story yesterday was already satisfying enough. Hyun realizes Ki-hoon has lost hope of finding the soup from his memories. He's probably searched every Italian restaurant already. Hyun brings out the vegetable soup he prepared in advance. He's confident today's flavor will exceed Ki-hoon's expectations. After all, this is the Italian vegetable soup Hyun specially made overnight for the artist. Ki-hoon stares at the soup in his spoon, still bubbling with foam. A strong fishy smell fills his nostrils. Ki-hoon has every reason to believe Hyun had deliberately made it taste bad. But as the soup slides into his mouth, memories from his youth flood back instantly. The worn tables and chairs, and that window overlooking the sea, it's all right before his eyes. The vegetable soup from his memory tasted exactly like this. Thinking this, Ki-hoon smiles with satisfaction. After so many years, he's finally tasting it again. If he ate this now under normal circumstances, he'd throw it away immediately. Hyun quickly explains that the fishy, almost bitter taste comes from adding caciuco. As mentioned before, caciuco is an Italian seafood soup made by stewing various fish and shellfish. As for why the broth is thick and murky, Hyun suspects the cook ground clams into powder and added it to the soup. This would make the soup thick and give it that fishy, bitter taste. Hearing this, Ki-hoon falls into thought. Grinding clams to add to vegetable soup must have been intentional. But if the cook wanted to make it taste bad, there are many easier ways. Why go to such trouble? At this thought, Ki-hoon seems to understand. If it wasn't the chef's doing, it makes sense. To give more nutrition to poor students studying abroad, someone secretly ground clams and added them to the vegetable soup without the boss knowing. Perhaps it was also to protect the young people's pride. Looking back now, Ki-hoon never returned to that restaurant after that one time. That meddling lady, there was really nothing he could do about her kindness. Soon, Ki-hoon's wish fulfilled, he prepares to leave. Suddenly, he looks at Hyun's restaurant thoughtfully. The empty walls don't look quite right. The scene shifts. With his driver's help, Ki-hoon prepares to get in the car. He specifically tells Hyun not to make a fuss about this. Since his visit is strictly off the record, Hyun can't help but roll his eyes. Someone with a driver talking about being low-key? At the same time, Kim's figure appears behind Hyun. He slowly raises his hand to greet Hyun. This startles Hyun. Why is Kim launching another another surprise visit. After asking, he learns Kim just wants to vacation here for 3 days and get 3 days of free meals under the guise of visiting. Kim sits contentedly on Hyun's sofa while Hyun's expression darkens. Kim sees the fluffy Marshmallow and can't help reaching out to pet it, but Marshmallow, with maxed out agility, dodges. Seeing this, Hyun smirks. Even the village chief, with years of wild boar hunting experience, can't catch Marshmallow. Yet Marshmallow lets Hyun pet it freely. Isn't that frustrating, Kim? Kim tells Hyun not to get so smug. Judging by his appearance, he must be getting excluded a lot in the village. Hyun doesn't like hearing this. The village held a grand feast to welcome him. Hearing this, Kim looks at Hyun pitifully. Who knew living in a remote village would make Hyun delusional? The comment nearly makes Hyun explode. While bickering with Kim, Hyun hears the doorbell. It's Jung Myung-ho arriving at Hyun's restaurant. Hyun quickly comes out to greet him. Myung-ho just wants to deliver a gift, a return gesture for Hyun's meals to Kim Jin. A pair of exquisite oven mitts is brought out. Hearing that Soo Jin had sewn the gloves by hand, Hyun is deeply touched and a bit overwhelmed. Myung-ho explains Kim Jin wanted to deliver them herself, but having just given birth, she shouldn't go out. Hyun asks Myung-ho to tell Soo Jin he'll treasure these mitts. Just then, two familiar figures arrive at the restaurant. It's the village kids, Sang-hoo and Emily. They say school is on break starting today. They came specifically to ask Hyun to help with their homework. At the same time, yet another familiar figure appears at the restaurant entrance. The village chief's arrival makes Hyun almost think everyone coordinated this. At this moment, Kim watches the lively scene in the restaurant. He can't help but feel surprised. Hyun looks like he's doing really well here. He was worried Hyun would be lonely here. Looks like this visit was unnecessary. But since he's here, he'll definitely get his money's worth these 3 days. Who knew Hyun would learn how to connect with people here? Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, Hyun senses someone talking about him. The next moment, the chief's voice cuts into his thoughts, explaining that he is here to recruit villagers for help with farm work. Since it's the busy farming season, the chief wants to hire Hyun for 2 days to help. Though Hyun runs a restaurant, the chief wouldn't ask unless they were truly short-handed. Hyun figures there are hardly any customers anyway, but he's stuck now that Kim has shown up. Watching him hesitate, the chief figures he's too polite to refuse and starts to take back the request, when suddenly Hyun grins mischievously and agrees to help with the farm work. And he guarantees he can provide 2 people. Hyun struggles to raise his wooden sword to block the attack. He seizes the moment and launches his final strike, but his opponent effortlessly disarms him. Seeing this, Randolph quickly reassures Hyun that he's made great progress. At least he can now last 5 seconds against the weakest member of the Night Order. Hearing this, Hyun picks up the wooden sword from the ground. No matter how difficult it gets, he'll keep pushing forward. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by rustling from deep in the bushes. A familiar set of paws slowly emerges. It's Noah, the Beastkin warrior, accompanied by Mona. Mona immediately pounces toward Hyun enthusiastically, but a white figure suddenly appears and launches a sneak attack with no warning. Meanwhile, Noah's gaze settles on Randolph, whom he's meeting for the first time. Randolph asks Hyun with a smile if Noah is interested in their sword training. Confused, Hyun wonders why not just ask Noah directly. To his surprise, Randolph explains they can't understand each other's language. Hyun is stunned. This is the first time he's realized this. After all, his own communication with both humans and Beastkin in this world has been seamless. Seeing the situation, Randolph picks up his wooden sword and bids farewell to Hyun, suggesting they pause training since he has visitors. Noah watches Randolph's figure gradually disappear into the distance. He murmurs that Hyun is actually learning swordsmanship. Hyun explains that this is payment for the food he's provided. Noah freezes for a long moment without responding. Then he points out that he's also received food from Hyun, and not just once either. So as a Beastkin warrior, he must repay Hyun as well. Then I'll teach you Beastkin martial arts. Hyun's attempt to decline is immediately cut short. You don't think Beastkin martial arts are inferior to human swordsmanship, do you? Terrified, Hyun freezes on the spot and very willingly accepts the offer. If he doesn't comply in this situation, his life might be in danger. Noah then tells Hyun to get down on all fours. He explains this is the foundation of Beastkin martial arts. Just maintain this position and run all the way to the mountaintop. Hyun is dumbfounded. He just escaped from one hell. Has he now entered another? The scene shifts to the next morning. Hyun lies in bed in a strange position alongside Marshmallow. Unlike Marshmallow, who's sleeping soundly, Hyun, tormented all day in the other world yesterday, can't sleep at all due to back pain. Fortunately, Marshmallow's tongue has healing properties. Otherwise, Hyun wouldn't be able to get out of bed at all today. Hyun recalls what Noah told him yesterday. It turns out the conflict between Beastkin and humans in the other world runs deep. He quickly pushes this thought aside. Right now, he wants to fulfill his promise to bring spices and seasonings to the Beastkin. Though come to think of it, Randolph seems to know something about seasonings. It's just the Beastkin tribes who aren't interested in them. Just then, Hyun notices Marshmallow staring intently at the seasonings on the table. Hyun asks if he should let Marshmallow try some, then suddenly realizes he can't keep bringing seasonings from this world every time. A brilliant idea strikes him. He could actually try purchasing seasonings from the humans in the other world. The scene shifts to reveal 2 rows of neatly arranged human soldiers. Hyun simply shared his idea with Randolph. He never expected such an elaborate reception. It turns out the Night Order Captain Randolph mentioned is quite a high-ranking position among the humans. Soon, a mysterious figure in strange robes appears at the far end of the formation. The man appears to be someone named Roman, a leader whose rank is no lower than Randolph's. According to Randolph, he seems to have prepared an even grander program for Hyun. Hearing this, Hyun instantly becomes a fanboy and starts fantasizing wildly. Anyone can see this is a master mage from his appearance. Could the next greeting be a grand daylight magical fireworks show? Roman gently waves his staff, and several sparks of fire appear from thin air. Then Roman swings his staff forcefully, sending countless flames shooting rapidly into the sky. Two soft pops are heard. Two barely visible puffs of smoke bloom slowly in the sky. Hyun is left completely speechless by this magnificent magical display. However, looking at Roman's current state, releasing this fireworks show seems to have exhausted him completely. Seeing this, Hyun can only sigh softly and remain silent. Even a firecracker in Korea would probably make more noise than these fireworks. Soon, several people begin showing Hyun around the town. To help him blend in, they even get him a set of local clothes. This is the town's only marketplace. If he wants to buy seasonings, this is the best place to come. After saying this, Randolph wants to say goodbye to Hyun and will come find him for dinner later. But Hyun is already captivated by the dazzling array of goods here. Soon, Hyun spots his first target. This item that looks like a pepper definitely smells like a seasoning, but he doesn't know exactly what it can be used to make. Just then, a voice suddenly sounds from behind Hyun. Roman explains this is rameh, a seasoning that can be used in stews. Roman then explains that his presence is at Randolph's request. At first, he didn't understand why shopping at a market required protection. Not until he saw marshmallow did it make sense. Hyun looks at the old man before him in confusion. Roman asks if Hyun wants to buy some rameh. Before Hyun can respond, he has the merchant pack up all the rameh. Then he pulls out a huge money pouch, tosses it to Hyun, and tells him to buy whatever he wants. Hyun is instantly charmed by Roman's generosity. Roman is just puzzled why Hyun's reaction now is better than during the fireworks. Soon, Hyun completes a satisfying shopping spree with Roman's generous funds. Hyun thanks Roman again for his extraordinary generosity. It turns out Roman has always been absorbed in research and isn't interested in money. With this large bag of spices, Hyun is confident he can create many different seasonings. But Roman is very puzzled. Could Hyun also be someone passionate about research? Hyun laughs. He just wants his friends to eat better food. Since he's still very unfamiliar with the spices here, he needs to go back and experiment. Roman seems to understand something. He finally understands why the sacred wolf stays with Hyun. Suddenly, Hyun asks Roman if he's hungry, since he brought some chive pancakes from home. Roman is about to decline, but to show respect for his guest, he takes a piece to try. After all, he's not really interested in eating. He remembers the last time he ate was 3 days ago. However, after one bite, Roman's expression suddenly turns panicked. How could something that looks like a thin flatbread be so delicious? The vegetables inside are unfamiliar, but the flavor is exactly to his liking. The dough's moist yet chewy texture melts so quickly in his mouth. What kind of divine food is this? Roman awkwardly asks if he can have more, and Hyun would never refuse someone who accepts his food. Roman then proceeds to stuff the chive pancakes into his mouth one after another. To Hyun, he's clearly wolfing it down. Has Roman been starving for days? After lunch, Hyun asks the question on his mind. Just shopping at the market. Why did Randolph ask you to escort me? Are there thieves or bandits here? Roman responds that if that were the case, it would be easy to handle. Just then, Marshmallow, who was sleeping nearby, suddenly wakes up and takes a defensive stance toward the front. Roman slowly states that not everyone here considers white wolves sacred, especially that person. If one is a servant of the gods, even more so. A man in church robes, accompanied by attendants, stands before Hyun and Roman. The man in front greets Roman coldly, but from their conversation, Hyun learns that this is Bishop Caldrus of the temple, one of the highest positions in the temple. Then Bishop Caldrus's tone shifts. His target this time is actually Hyun and Marshmallow. Just like with the Beastkin, Hyun and Marshmallow are being watched by certain forces as soon as they enter. But without exception, these people all trigger Marshmallow's defensive instinct. Bishop Caldrus claims he's simply interested in Marshmallow and wants to invite Hyun to visit the temple. At the same time, Roman speaks up. He naturally understands the bishop's true intentions, but he absolutely won't let Hyun be taken away without reason. The magical energy surging through his staff shows his readiness to fight. Seeing this, Caldrus can't act rashly. Openly confronting both Roman and Randolph is not the best choice right now. Caldrus falls silent for a moment. Then he states that since the White Wolf's master already has commitments, though it's regrettable, he won't intrude further. With that, Caldrus turns and leaves. Seeing this, the magical energy in Roman's staff gradually dissipates. Clearly, he's quite satisfied with his protection efforts. Even Hyun didn't expect Roman to go this far for him. He just hopes Roman won't become weak from releasing magic this time, since even the fireworks exhausted him completely. Hearing this, Roman calmly explains that his custom fireworks are created by artistically refining explosion magic, and then he begins elaborating endlessly on the details. The scene shifts. As night falls, Randolph meets with Hyun as promised. However, Hyun's eardrums are now completely shattered. He never imagined Roman could spend 3 hours straight explaining the principles behind a fireworks spell. This is Randolph's own family restaurant. Even the soldiers who were on guard duty during the day have been stationed here. The main purpose is to protect Hyun's safety. Suddenly, Randolph's daughter starts pouting. She's been wanting to eat with Marshmallow. Hearing this, her doting father immediately comforts her. She can go feed Marshmallow after dinner. But only Hyun knows this is impossible, because by then, Marshmallow will likely be stuffed. Meanwhile, other tables are in an uproar. Marshmallow has devoured their food without anyone noticing. Hearing this, Hyun makes a decision. He'll definitely punish Marshmallow tomorrow by not letting him eat all day. This is too embarrassing. Suddenly, a rough, bitter taste floods Hyun's mouth. Is this what local beer tastes like? Hyun suddenly understands why Randolph wanted him to bring beer from home. This time, Hyun brought a lot of local beer and soju from Korea. Unexpectedly, as soon soon as they're served, the guests go wild for them. Randolph quickly steps forward to explain that these drinks are from Hyun's homeland and are only available tonight. If they want more later, they can contact Hyun directly. As soon as these words are spoken, Hyun is stunned. Instantly, countless eager drinkers swarm toward him. Hyun never expected that ordinary drinks from his homeland would have such a strong impact on people in this world. He certainly can't say these things are from another world. Thinking quickly, Hyun asks everyone if they want to know how to make the drinks even better. This tactic of redirecting attention works perfectly. The patrons immediately quiet down to watch Hyun's demonstration. He mixes beer and soju in a 7:3 ratio and pours it into a glass. Then he takes out an ordinary wooden spoon. With lightning-fast hand movements, he stirs rapidly. Finally, a Korean soju bomb is born. This feat stuns everyone present. They're all curious about the flashy technique. What they don't know is that Hyun picked up this skill by watching manager Kim. Soon, everyone in the tavern is amazed by this enchanting drink. The smooth texture and mellow flavor are intoxicating. They keep refilling their glasses, completely forgetting that 30% of it is still soju. In the end, Hyun single-handedly manages to drink the entire night order under the table. Time returns to morning. Hyun has something very important to handle today. He calls over Marshmallow, who's spacing out nearby. Marshmallow walks over excitedly, thinking something good is about to happen. But the scene shifts, and he's put on a leash, because Hyun promised to take Sang-hoo and Emily to Seoul, but he's worried he can't look after Marshmallow, so he's not planning to bring him. After saying goodbye to everyone, Hyun prepares to depart. His good friend Kim is waiting to pick him up. To the village chief, Hyun seems like a completely different person from when he first arrived. Hyun now looks more than twice as energetic. After getting in the car, Hyun asks Sang-hoo and Emily how they feel about going to Seoul. It turns out this is Sang-hoo and Emily's first time leaving the village for the big city of Seoul. Hearing this, Kim realizes he's been called to be a chauffeur for kids today. Today's first destination is the children's favorite, the amusement park. However, Hyun's biggest worry is being recognized as a public figure. Following Kim's exasperated guidance, he finds a hat. But Kim knows Hyun has changed significantly. In the past, he would never go to crowded places. Just then, Kim seems to see something strange in the rearview mirror, a blur of white fur moving at high speed. At the same time, the village chief discovers that the white wolf on the leash has vanished. Soon, the scene arrives at the amusement park. Unlike the children's excited expressions, Hyun still struggles with crowded places. He thought getting along well with people in the village and the other world would be enough. But when he actually faces this situation, he still feels intimidated. Do other people's opinions really matter that much? Just then, Sang-hoo grabs Hyun's hand. Seeing that Hyun doesn't look well, he quickly pulls him along to play, thinking Hyun is just scared of the rides. Hyun freezes for a moment, then he smiles faintly, saying he's fine now. He's not as afraid as he used to be. Seeing this, Kim fans the flames, saying he was ready to call an ambulance for Hyun. Suddenly, a commotion nearby catches Kim's attention. He thinks another celebrity has arrived. Little does he know the chaos at the amusement park is just from a little white wolf, and an agile wolf that all the staff can't catch despite their best efforts. A wolf whose evasion skills are heightened in enclosed spaces. The scene shifts to a hospital in downtown Seoul. The next second, the door is flung open. Sang-hoo rushes inside quickly. Seeing this, the woman trembles. Sang-hoo finally sees his mother. Outside the door, Hyun asks Emily if she's bored and wants to go sit in a cafe. Emily says she's fine. After Sang-hoo sees his mom, we can go straight home, because I miss my mom too. Time flies, and soon it's evening. Sang-hoo and Emily finish their pleasant day trip to Seoul. As Hyun watches this heartwarming scene, an extremely exhausted figure appears before him, limping. Hyun picks up Marshmallow and asks what happened. He originally felt guilty about leaving Marshmallow in the village, but it looks like the wolf also played all day and is exhausted. Fortunately, Marshmallow can't speak, or what he'd say right now would be very unpleasant. The scene returns to Hyun camping in the other world. The first thing he does is take out food and start cooking. It's a pot of freshly braised pork leg. This is Hyun's first time using seasonings from the other world. Unexpectedly, their odor-removing effect is even better than imagined. In the 2 weeks since purchasing the spices, Hyun has almost perfected the recipe. As a piece of pork is picked up and placed in his mouth, the flavor actually exceeds Hyun's expectations. This spice seems to have a blend of mustard and lemon flavors. On the other side, Mona is also eating with great relish. Eager to share his joy, Hyun remains utterly unaware that a gaze from the shadows is fixed on his every move all the while. The mysterious figure has been watching Hyun for quite some time, but discovers he's just been camping and cooking outdoors with no other suspicious behavior. What makes the mysterious figure more curious is how Hyun makes such fragrant food. Even she, someone who doesn't love meat, feels hungry. Suddenly, Hyun notices Marshmallow has disappeared. Hearing this, the mysterious figure snaps back to attention. She immediately feels uneasy and is about to turn and leave, but a snow-white figure is behind her, staring with those bright blue eyes. The next second, Marshmallow reveals those mischievous little fangs. Suddenly, a loud thud catches Hyun's attention. Hyun thinks it's another prank by his master Randolph, but what appears before him is someone wearing a tight bodysuit, with a pair of non-human ears, and blonde hair with green eyes. Solara's cheeks instantly flush red. Being discovered by her target after falling from a tree is a first for her, and she's one of the best scouts among the elves. Right now, Hyun's mind is full of questions. What's going on with this strange, blushing girl? Just as Hyun prepares to help, she suddenly shouts. Immediately, a sound came from the sky. A completely blue bird beast swoops toward Hyun. Its swift movements nearly catch Hyun off guard. Solara has now stood up with a red face. She warns Hyun that what he saw today cannot be spread around, otherwise he'll face severe retribution from all the elves. Then, both she and the beast are gone in an instant. Just then, a snow-white head emerges from the tree. Hyun finally understands the female elf falling from the tree was this little guy's doing. Though forcing her to make such an entrance, Marshmallow's behavior was indeed quite rude. Suddenly, Hyun discovers a dagger in the grass. This seems to be what the elven visitor dropped. Suddenly, Mona's noisy cries come from behind. It turns out Noah has appeared behind her at some point and grabbed Mona. Because Mona ran out of the village this time without permission, the chief specifically ordered him to bring Mona back and said she can't receive special treatment just because she's the chief's daughter. Suddenly, Noah freezes for a moment. Then his expression shifts. He asks suspiciously why he smells the scent of elves on Hyun. Hearing this, Hyun quickly says it might be from the dagger in his hand. Just as he's about to explain everything that happened, Hyun remembers a red-faced girl threatened him not to tell. Watching Hyun hesitate to speak, Noah can only turn to look at Marshmallow. After a long moment, Noah has guessed that a certain fool fell from a tree. Hearing this, Hyun quickly changes the subject and asks Noah if he wants to eat something. He happens to have brought some food as a gift for the beastkin. Noah says he's not particularly hungry, but if there's food, that's a good option. Worried the children might not like it, Hyun specifically brought meat and vegetable skewers with good flavors. As the grill's flames gradually burn, the food being grilled over charcoal releases an enticing aroma. Soon, a hot skewer of grilled meat is thrust into Noah's hand. Hyun is urging Noah to eat quickly because he can barely control two ravenous beasts. Noah's two ears twitch slowly. He says the skewers taste good. Please wrap up the rest for him. That way he can eat slowly on the way back while taking Mona home. The scene shifts to deep in the forest. A familiar figure stands there. The elven girl is still regretting being caught in that embarrassing moment by a human. Suddenly, a figure slowly approaches from behind. It's Noah. He says he didn't bother hiding his presence. And Solara, you're still as obsessed with tracking humans as before. Hearing this, Solara says it's perfectly normal behavior since this forest is the three-race border. After all, if anything goes wrong in this sensitive area, it will be difficult to explain. Noah says Hyun is a friend of the beastkin and hopes she won't do anything unnecessary. Hearing Noah's words, Solara is greatly shocked and begins to reassess the man before her. Noah's strength is top tier even among elites, for someone like him to actually favor a human. Additionally, what Noah is holding catches Solara's attention. It looks very delicious.